Chapter 604. The Banshee's perception of chakra is far beyond the human's perception ability. When the Banshee came in contact with the raindrops cast by yin-yang release and rain tiger technique, it quickly noticed the faint chakra in them. How can ordinary raindrops contain chakra? Almost instantly, Aburaim Mao Tian already knew that the whereabouts of the four of them have been discovered. Hearing Aburaim Mao Tian's words, the other members of the scouting team also became nervous. Although they already knew that their whereabouts were exposed when they entered the Cloud Village, but now that Aburaim Mao Tian said this, it's not as simple as their whereabouts being discovered, it's very likely that their whereabouts have been completely grasped by the Akatsuki. How is it possible? How did they? Hearing Aburaim Mao Tian's words, Lan Hua couldn't help but say with a bit of surprise. But before she finished speaking, Lan Hua was completely speechless. Because Lan Hua keenly discovered that not far away from them, the air began to distort out of thin air. Before entering the Cloud Village, all the members of Mitarashi Enko's squad read the joint statistics of the 5 great ninja villages about the members of Akatsuki. The masked man called Achihamada, who can use space ninjutsu and single-handedly started the 4th Shinobi World War, has some understanding of this masked man. Isn't this a sign of space ninjutsu used in the records? Seeing such a sign, everyone couldn't help but get nervous. After all, although the members of Mitarashi Enko's squad have the strength of Jonin or Special Jonin, in fact, only Mitarashi Enko and Lan Hua have the strength of a Jonin. The other 2 members, Hyuga Takuma and Aburaim Mao Tian, are actually Special Jonin because of their superior perception ability. Specifically speaking of combat ability, they are only at the level of an elite Chunin. Get ready to fight! Looking at the appearance of space folds, Mitarashi Enko immediately began to shout loudly, and one of her hands took out a kunai and put it on her chest. However, Red Bean also placed her other hand behind her back and signaled to her 3 teammates, "The situation is critical, retreat when the opportunity arises." Dima Hyuga, Aburaim Moda, and Lan Hana also tensed up after seeing Enko Mitarashi's sign language. Indeed, according to the intelligence, the masked man's strength was unfathomable, and he wasn't an existence that could be resisted by Jonin or even Chunin-level ninjas. Obito's figure slowly emerged from the space ripples. He spoke with a strange emphasis, like a child who was addicted to hide and seek and found his little friend hiding in a secret place. He spoke with a bit of excitement and banter, but compared to a child, Obito's voice was undoubtedly more terrifying and threatening. If he was discovered by Obito, not only would he lose the game, he would also lose his life. Soft Fist Technique, 8 trigrams 64 palms. After seeing Uchiha Obito's body completely appear in space, Hyuga Takuma, who is the best at close combat in the 4-person team, immediately launched an attack. As a close combat ninja, Hyuga Takuma is very clear about his duty. He needs to do his best to restrict Obito's movements and create opportunities for his companions. Although he can't defeat Obito, at least there is a possibility of escaping. Starting from where Hyuga Takuma was, the 8 trigrams field was instantly spread out, and sticky chakra was released to hinder the opponent's movements. Seeing Hyuga Takuma attack, Aburaim Mao Tian also used the Aburaim clan's signature ninjutsu, Parasite Worm. A large number of black parasites rushed out from Mao Tian's skin. Although each parasite was small, when a large number of parasites gathered together, they directly formed a black torrent. Secret Technique, Insect Jade. The original secret technique, Insect Jade, is used to completely restrict the enemy inside the parasite and then absorb the enemy's chakra, making the enemy lose the ability to fight and even their life. But at this moment, in order to leave room for Hyuga Takuma to attack, the parasites turned into a black ribbon under the control of Mao Tian and surrounded Obito's body at high speed. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the parasites, Hyuga Takuma didn't hesitate to rush forward, with a large number of chakra on his hands, aiming at all the acupuncture points on Obito's body. Hyuga Takuma wanted to seal all the acupuncture points on Obito's body, and then make him lose the ability to use space ninjutsu. As long as Uchiha Obito can't use space ninjutsu, their team members have a chance to escape. The struggle of an ant. looking at Takuma Hyuga rushing towards him and Aburame Mao Tian in the distance who was constantly controlling the parasites in an attempt to control him, Obito's eyes became colder and colder. Once upon a time, he was also like this. In order to protect his teammates and his own beliefs, even if he saw a powerful existence, he didn't have the slightest fear, but it was precisely because of this that he lost his most beloved person and half of his body. Until now, the regret of losing something precious was burning his heart all the time. It is precisely because of this burning feeling that the figures of Hyuga Takuma and Aburame Mao Tian are more and more dazzling in Obito's eyes. Slightly lowering his head, his 3-tomo Sharingan instantly transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan, and Mangekyo Sharingan Dojutsu, Kamui, was instantly activated. Uchiha Obito's body began to become illusory, and Uchiha Obito directly walked out of the parasites that were surging around him at high speed. Seeing that Obito directly ignored the parasites and the shackles of the 8 trigrams domain, Hyuga Takuma was very surprised. But at this moment, Hyuga Takuma was in a state of high-speed movement, and it takes some time for him to change his technique. But will Obito give Hyuga Takuma such a time? Obito also accelerated his speed, and his illusory body rushed straight in the direction of Hyuga Takuma. Obito used this technique on Killer Bee, the Hachibi column force, and now he is using it on Hyuga Takuma. Obito's illusory body directly passed through Hyuga Takuma's body. At the moment of passing through, Obito immediately condensed his chakra into a black iron rod, and directly inserted it into Hyuga Takuma's heart. Chapter 605. After the black iron staff pierced through Hyuga Takuma's heart without any hindrance, Obito didn't stop to check the result of his battle. Instead, he looked at Hyuga Takuma, who was standing slightly behind Takuma. Indifferently and decisively, he pulled out the black iron rod in his hand. Blood flowed directly from the round wound on Takuma's chest. His lifeless eyes were wide open, and his weak body fell directly to the ground. "Now it's your turn." Uchiha pointed the black iron staff in his hand at Aburame Mao Tian. His eyes were slowly filled with contempt for life. Seeing that Obito defeated Hyuga Takuma with a single blow, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, as the team leaders, immediately rushed towards Aburame Mao Tian's location. As teammates, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua understood that Aburame Mao Tian wasn't the type of person who was good at fighting. Obito had already killed one of their companions. If the two of them didn't help Aburame Mao Tian, then Aburame Mao Tian herself would be doomed. Lan Hua. Anko Mitarashi shouted Lan Hua's name loudly, and her hands quickly formed hand seals. Hearing Anko Mitarashi's shout, Lan Hua also reacted quickly, and her hands also quickly formed hand seals. Currently, Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua were still some distance away from Aburame Mao Tian, but Obito was very close to her, so if Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua really want to save Aburame Mao Tian, then they must use long-range ninjutsu to prevent Obito from getting close to Aburame Mao Tian. Aburame Mao Tian wasn't without any fighting ability. She directly opened the huge jar on her back, and a large number of parasites rushed out of the jar, and under Aburame Mao Tian's control, they constantly flew and changed in the air. Anko Mitarashi. After all, Lan Hua and Aburame Mao Tian were members of the same team, so there was some tacit understanding between them. Almost at the same time, the ninjutsu prepared by the three of them all attacked the place where Obito was. Ninjutsu, destruction of snakes. Secret technique, parasites, cluster. Wind release, thousand-face wind. Anko Mitarashi opened her hands, and a number of poisonous snakes with strong venom drilled out of her sleeves one after another. A large number of snakes rushed towards Uchiha Obito like arrows. Almost 2/3 of the parasites controlled by Aburame Mao Tian rushed towards Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito's body was surrounded by countless parasites. Lan Hua's Thousand Wind Jutsu is a ninjutsu that uses chakra to condense a large number of wind blades to attack. After seeing that Obito's body seemed to be controlled by Anko Mitarashi's poisonous snakes and Aburame Mao Tian's parasites, she immediately controlled her chakra to condense wind blades to attack Obito's body that was already surrounded by the parasites and snakes. The sharp wind blades directly attacked the parasites and the poisonous snakes wrapped around Obito's body, but neither Aburame Mao Tian nor Anko showed any distressed expression. Especially for Aburame Mao Tian, she cultivated the parasites bit by bit with her own chakra, so the loss of a large number of parasites was simply unacceptable for her. But now, even if a large number of her parasites are dying, Aburame Mao Tian can only suppress the reluctance in her heart and control the remaining 1/3 of the parasites to attach to her body. The chakra of the parasites themselves is fed back to Aburame Mao Tian's body. Although a parasite's body didn't contain that much chakra, but when a large number of parasites gathered the weak chakra in their body and transferred it into Aburame Mao Tian's body, the huge amount of chakra made Aburame Mao Tian's meridians feel a little unbearable. After exchanging a glance with Anko Mitarashi and Lan Hua, the three of them simultaneously withdrew the chakra that they were using to maintain their ninjutsu. At the same time, Anko Mitarashi, Lan Hua, and Aburame Mao Tian also directly retreated in 3 different directions. After all, Uchiha Obito was only one person. Although Anko Mitarashi and the others retreated separately so that the 3 of them couldn't take care of each other, but chasing them also needed to confirm their whereabouts one by one. This undoubtedly bought time for the other teammates who weren't being chased. Ignoring whether Uchiha Obito, who was wearing a mask to hide his identity, was injured by their joint attack, Anko Mitarashi just desperately rushed in the direction of leaving the Cloud Village. Even if her legs had become sore because of a large number of chakra, and even if her chakra was showing signs of exhaustion, Anko Mitarashi still used her will to drive her body to continue rushing. She felt like there was a grim reaper behind her who was holding a scythe that harvested souls and was staring at her covetously. There was a voice constantly shouting in her heart. "You must go back alive. You must." Along the way, Anko Mitarashi shuttled between the bushes that weren't tall enough, trying to avoid all the raindrops that might fall on her body. Just as Mitarashi Anko was running for her life, a chill suddenly spread from Anko's spine to her entire body. The feeling of danger. Almost instinctively, Anko Mitarashi controlled her body that was moving at high speed and directly rolled to the side. Ding! At the moment when Anko Mitarashi dodged her body, a black iron rod was directly inserted in the place where Anko Mitarashi was just a moment ago. It has been a long time since Anko Mitarashi separated from her other 2 teammates. At least one of her other 2 teammates may have died in the hands of Uchiha Obito. It seems that she can only go all out, right? Looking at Uchiha Obito, who was standing in front of her with a black iron rod in his hand, Anko Mitarashi's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. Quickly making hand seals, Anko Mitarashi directly rushed in the direction of Uchiha Obito. Ninjutsu, Double Snake Killing Jutsu. Chapter 606. 2 huge pythons as thick as an adult's thigh directly rushed out of Anko's clothes after she finished the hand seals. One of them wrapped around Anko's body, and the other one rushed directly towards Uchiha Obito like a ghost, directly entrenched on Uchiha Obito's body. Seeing that Obito was controlled by the pythons, Anko also quickly approached Obito's side and put her hand together with Obito's gloved hand. As long as she can use her hand and Obito's hand to make the hand seal at the same time, then her and Obito's chakra will be completely absorbed by the 2 pythons, and the huge chakra will directly detonate the 2 pythons, and then kill the 2 people entangled by the pythons at the same time. This is the most powerful ninjutsu that Anko learned from Orochimaru, and it's an S-class forbidden technique used to perish together with the opponent. Why don't you guys have any creativity at all? In the end, 1 or 2 of you think you can really perish together with me. It's really boring. Looking at Mitarashi Anko, although he was wearing a mask, Obito's eyes revealed a very obvious look of contempt. From Uchiha Obito's words, it's not difficult to see that the people who were chased by Uchiha Obito before Anko also wanted to perish together with Obito, but obviously it didn't work. However, Mitarashi Anko still has full confidence in this double snake fusion jutsu. After all, this ninjutsu is an S-class forbidden technique personally developed by the genius of a generation, or rather, the ghost of Orochimaru. No matter how much Mitarashi Anko resents Orochimaru, the fear and respect for Orochimaru that was cultivated since childhood made Mitarashi Enko believe that once this ninjutsu is completed, she will definitely cause enough damage to Uchiha Obito. Grabbing Uchiha Obito's hand, she made the hand seal with his hand, and all the chakra in Enko's body began to pour into Obito's body. Under normal circumstances, Enko's own chakra will guide all the chakra out of Obito's body and inject it into the two pythons, and then detonate them at the same time. Whether it's the caster or the target, they will die at the same time. Enko used the hand seal with Uchiha Obito to transfer her chakra into Uchiha Obito's body, but when Enko released a large amount of chakra, she found that there was no way for her chakra to invade Uchiha Obito's body. This feeling is like the hand seal with her is not Uchiha Obito, but a piece of wood or a stone. Wood? Stone? When such a thought appeared in Enko's mind, an idea rose in her mind. From the information collected by the 5 great shinobi villages, the masked man has the Manjikyu Sharingan, which is far superior to the 3 Tomo Sharingan. After the hypnotic eye of the Sharingan evolved into the Manjikyu Sharingan, there must be a qualitative leap. So is it possible that she really unknowingly fell under the genjutsu of the Sharingan, and the target she is controlling now is not the real, masked man? Catching the surprise in Enko's eyes, Uchiha Obito's eyes finally flashed with some appreciation. Sure enough, you are worthy of being a ninja trained by Orochimaru. Although you were abandoned by Orochimaru in the end, your ninja accomplishment is also one of the best. You didn't even realize what was going on at the last moment. Worthy of praise, but unfortunately, it's useless. You should be glad that you are still useful to my plan, otherwise, you can only be buried in a foreign land like your other 3 companions. After Obito finished his sentence, his body slowly faded, and even his physical features gradually changed, turning into a wooden puppet of the same size. This is the strategy achieved by Obito and his hidden jutsu, would release, would clone, combined with the genjutsu of the Sharingan. When the genjutsu was actively removed by Obito, Enko finally saw the real situation. At this moment, Obito was looking at Enko and the wood clone, who were entangled by the 2 pythons with a bit of ridicule. It was like watching a funny play, and then being driven by the funny behavior of the actors in it, he couldn't help but want to sneer. Originally, Enko wanted to use the twin snake fusion jutsu to perish together with Obito, but at this moment, it became a fatal action to restrict her movements. Enko could only watch Obito slowly walk towards her, but there was no way to respond at all. Turning his hand into a hand blade, Obito walked to Enko's side and slashed his hand on the back of Enko's neck. The powerful force directly caused Enko to fall into a coma, and the double snake internecine jutsu, was also cancelled because Enko fell into a coma. Reaching out his hand, Obito roughly grabbed Mitarashi Enko, who had already fallen into a coma. Like holding a piece of merchandise, he lifted Mitarashi Enko by her collar. Activating his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kemyi, spatial ripples were instantly generated, and Obito and Enko were both absorbed into it. In Yakushi Pocket's room, spatial ripples were generated out of thin air, and Uchiha Obito directly appeared in the room with Enko in his hand. Seeing the spatial ripples, Yakushi Pocket was quite anxious to greet him. Without greeting Uchiha Obito, Yakushi Pocket directly took Enko from Obito's hand. He flipped open Mitarashi Enko's collar, and the 3 Tomo runes appeared in Medicine Master's Pocket's field of vision. Slowly placing his palm on the curse mark on Enko's neck, he used his chakra to feel the curse mark, and a trace of excitement flashed in Yakushi Pocket's eyes. Sure enough, as he expected, the original curse mark engraved on Enko's neck contains a large amount of Orochimaru's chakra and Yugo's mutated Senjutsu chakra. As long as all of this chakra is extracted and integrated into his chakra, then not only will his Edo Tensei technique be improved, his strength will also be greatly improved. Chapter 607. I'll leave her to you. But I also hope that you won't give me a result that I don't want to see. Looking at Kabuto's eyes full of excitement, Obito's tone was quite indifferent. For Uchiha Obito, the so-called fetters are simply the most useless thing. What Uchiha Obito likes the most now is the way he gets along with Kabuto and Black Zetsu. Everyone has their own pursuit, their own goals. Although it's inevitable for them to be suspicious of each other, as long as they don't relax their vigilance, they won't lose anything. Originally, after seeing Mitarashi Anko and perceiving a large amount of strange chakra belonging to Orochimaru from the curse mark on Anko's neck, such a situation made Kabuto's heart flutter a little. Even the state of mind that has been maintained for a long time became not so calm. Obito's words are not only a threat to Kabuto, but also to let Kabuto adjust his mentality. The reason why he can cooperate with Obito and Black Zetsu like this is because he still has value. Once he uses this value as his capital to run rampant, then he will eventually be kicked away by Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, and even his life will be taken away. Don't worry. Kabuto put his hand on his glasses, slightly adjusted his glasses, and said to Obito very concisely. Then he directly picked up Mitarashi Anko and put her on a medical bed in his room that is obviously used for human experiments. At the latest tonight, I will let you see the results. Hearing Baguette's words, Obito slowly nodded his head. Time passed little by little. The sky was gradually shrouded by the light muslin of the night. Tonight, the moon is bright, and there are few stars, only a full moon is reflected in the sky. The cold moonlight sprinkled on the earth. The originally slightly reddish-brown soil at this moment is like sprinkled with a layer of silver powder, becoming a little sparkling. What is colder than the moonlight is Uchiha Obito's eyes at this moment. One red and one white eyes, at this moment, reflected a fierce and cold brilliance. Everything is ready. Black Zetsu's figure slowly appeared beside Obito and reported his situation to him. Very good, then start preparing for the attack. When the army of 100,000 White Zetsu starts the attack, select some of the more evolved clones and send them to Kabuto. Yes, not long ago, Kabuto informed Obito that he has successfully extracted Orochimaru's chakra from Mitarashi Anko's body. After a short period of adaptation, his chakra has further transformed. Now, he can summon a large number of Edo Tensei's clones without full control. Since the second phase of the battle has been completed, Uchiha Obito didn't suppress his strong emotions, directly ordered Black Zetsu to attack. Every white clone have 8 TSS proficient in stealth. As long as the strength of the clone doesn't surpass that of the White Zetsu clones, then the White Zetsu clones are almost perfect. Among the White Zetsu clones, there are a certain number of White Zetsu clones that have reached the level of Jonin or even Elite Jonin. When these White Zetsu use stealth and transformation ninjutsu, even a Kage-level powerhouse is likely to be deceived by these White Zetsu clones. The White Zetsu's attack plan is actually very simple. A large number of White Zetsu clones will directly transform into the appearance of the ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces. After all, the ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces come from the 5 great ninja villages. Although they have a common goal with each other, after all, the time they have spent with each other is still too short, and they still lack a certain tacit understanding with their familiar and unfamiliar comrades. And this gap also provides an advantage for the White Zetsu clones' attack plan. They are not familiar with each other, but they have to cooperate, and some actions that may cause suspicion are naturally included in the scope of tolerance. In just a few minutes, under the invasion of the White Zetsu army, many ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces were directly killed by the White Zetsu clones. And with the passage of time, the number of ninjas killed in the Ninja Allied Forces also snowballed. This time, unlike the surprise attack on the Cloud Village, the White Zetsu army has been allowed to kill. Like a group of hungry beasts, the White Zetsu clones are constantly nibbling the ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces from the outside. Although deliberately disguised, the smell of blood has become stronger with the increasing number of ninjas who have lost their lives. There is no lack of strong ninjas in the Ninja Allied Forces. Before the war, they even set up a special force to sense the situation and scattered it all over the Ninja Allied Forces. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Almost in the blink of an eye, the news of the White Zetsu's invasion has spread throughout the camp. After all, ninjas are a profession that exists specifically for combat. When such a situation occurs, they also react quickly. One by one, ninjas began to deliberately shrink towards the inside of the camp, and the ninjas from various villages who have been divided into combat units also immediately gathered. Melee unit, gather. As the leader of the melee unit, Kitsuchi's voice directly passed into the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Through the effect of the spiritual force amplifier, Yamanaka Inoichi has been putting his hand on Kitsuchi's head, using himself as a medium to directly pass Kitsuchi's order to the mind of every ninja in the melee unit. Don't panic. The white Zetsu clones are invading us. According to the intelligence of the Cloud Village, although their stealth and transformation abilities are very strong, there are not many strong ninjas among them. Now, the melee unit immediately gather and use your ninjutsu to resist the white Zetsu army that has already revealed themselves. The perception unit and the special operations unit have already begun to move. They will do their best to find the white Zetsu clones mixed in the ninja allied forces. After a short strategic deployment, Kitsuchi nodded to Yamanaka Inoichi, who put his hand on his head. After all, he is the leader of the melee unit. He can't stay here. He needs to fight against the white Zetsu clones with his companions. Chapter 608. White Zetsu clones have already launched an attack on us. Although the melee forces and other ninjas are doing their best to resist, white Zetsu's transformation and stealth ability are indeed a major problem that can't be ignored. There are even powerful Jonin and elite Jonin among the white Zetsu clones. Now they have posed a great threat to our combat forces. According to incomplete statistics, we have lost nearly half of our ninjas. At the Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters, Yakage Assistant Officer Maibui from the Cloud Village of the Land of Lightning received the information from the front line, and after a short reading, he said to the Kages sitting in his chair. Except for Terumi Mei, who is responsible for guarding the 5 major countries, the Kage from other villages are now here. Hearing Mabuyi's words, everyone's eyebrows furrowed slightly. It's just the first contact at the beginning of the war, and the Ninja Allied Forces have already suffered such a large loss? After looking at the other Kage sitting beside him, Gaara sat up from his seat and said to the other Kage, "Don't worry, Kage. It seems that if there is no strong way to deal with the white Zetsu army, we will definitely suffer more losses. It's better for me to go to the front line now. My sand release is extremely good at large-scale attacks. With the help of the Ninja Allied Forces, I believe that we can definitely defeat the white Zetsu clones in a short time." Seeing Gaara stand up and make such a proposal, whether it's Watergate, AI, Anoki, or Nara Shikaku, they didn't show any surprise. After all, compared to everyone present, Gaara is still young, and he doesn't think clearly enough. "Kazahima, you must calm down." Seeing the other Kage sitting in their seats, Nara Shikaku knew that it's time for him to step in. Standing up from his seat, Nara Shikaku walked to Gaara's side. His face with several scars was full of wisdom. "We are very clear about the real purpose of the Akatsuki, that is, to collect all the people of the column force and then summon the Jubi to pull the entire ninja world into the Tsukuyami world. All of their actions are bound to unfold towards this goal, and we also have to think from this point of view." Gaara has to say that he is very convinced of Nara Shikaku's wisdom. After so many years of experience, Gaara, who was originally extreme and irritable, has become much more stable. When Nara Shikaku stood up to persuade him, Gaara suppressed his temper. When the Akatsuki attacked the Cloud Village, they deliberately controlled a large number of civilians and ninjas in the Cloud Village, but didn't take their lives. The living ninjas and civilians are actually a resource that needs to be protected. But now, why is Akatsuki massacring our ninjas? Although it can be explained that they hope to annihilate us and then defeat us. But if we think about it from another perspective, could it be that they are actually hoping to put some pressure on us through such a massacre? Hearing Nara Shikaku's words, Watergate's eyes flashed. Nara Shikaku's brief analysis almost instantly answered Watergate's doubts. But at this moment, Nara Shikaku had no time to observe Watergate's situation, but continued to explain to Gaara and even everyone who began to have doubts about the actions of the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki not only has a large number of white Zetsu army, but they also have a fearless Edo Tensei unit. If our high-end combat power, such as the Kage, really takes action, then the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki will definitely take action. Currently, we still can't completely judge to what extent Akatsuki organization has used Edo Tensei, this powerful forbidden technique. Regarding all the enemies whose strength we can't completely judge, we have no choice but to use their strength to the greatest extent when we consider our strategy. Before thinking about victory, think about defeat first. This has always been Nara Shikaku's attitude. If our Kage-level powerhouses start to fight, then the enemy's Edo Tensei unit will definitely take action. Once the Edo Tensei unit of the Akatsuki has enough powerhouses to compete with Kage-level powerhouses, then all our high-end combat power will be restrained. At that time, not only our combat troops, but even our high-end combat power will fall into a bitter battle. In order to win, we will have to send Column Force, who is also a high-end combat power, to the battlefield. If the Akatsuki still has spare strength at this time, then Column Force won't be guaranteed. Yes, the important thing is not the victory and loss of 1 or 2 battles, but whether the Akatsuki's plan can be carried out smoothly. As long as they can prevent the Akatsuki from achieving their Eye of the Moon plan, even if the 5 great ninja villages really suffer heavy losses, it is not unacceptable. But if we don't fight now, our combat troops will really be scattered by the White Zetsu army, then what should we do? Although Nara Shikaku's words are very reasonable, but also a problem that can't be ignored was raised by Gaara. After all, the battle is not a simple arithmetic problem, it involves the human heart and many more factors. Nara Shikaku naturally knows this situation, so he has not proposed an effective solution so far. Report. The acting leader of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura, requests an audience. It is obviously the critical moment of the war, but as one of the acting leaders of the medical unit, Haruno Sakura actually came to the Ninja Allied Forces command at this moment. Such a thing is almost beyond everyone's expectations. But as the 4th Hokage of the Wood Leaf Village, Watergate's face didn't have the slightest trace of astonishment. Instead, he was somewhat excited and gratified. Let her in. As the Kage of Haruno Sakura's village, Watergate directly said to the ninja who came to report. After a while, Haruno Sakura directly walked into the command center. After saluting to the several Kages, Haruno Sakura said to Watergate. Reporting to Hokasama, the results of the White Zetsu skull you asked Master to study have appeared. Master has conducted a comprehensive analysis of the White Zetsu's transformation ability and stealth ability, and has produced a large number of drugs to suppress their stealth and transformation ability. I request that the drugs be distributed to stop the White Zetsu clones from attacking. Chapter 609. That's great. Hearing Sakura's words, almost everyone in the headquarters became excited. Just now, everyone in the headquarters was troubled by the problem of saving their strength, but at this moment, the acting leader of the medical unit, Sakura, gave everyone a perfect solution. But from Sakura Haruno's short words, it revealed some information. This kind of medicine was developed by Tsunade by studying the skull of a White Zetsu. Tsunade's own attainments in medical ninjutsu are naturally needless to say, but when did Konoha's ninja village obtain and decide to study the head of White Zetsu and even mass-produce a potion to suppress White Zetsu's ability? It seems that before the war began, Watergate already understood the influence of the White Zetsu clones on the battlefield, and asked Tsunade, who can be said to be the best medical ninjutsu in the world, to study the White Zetsu in advance. This kind of foresight is simply terrifying. Sakura! Watergate slowly stood up from his seat, and after exchanging glances with the other 3 Kages, he was ready to give an order to Sakura. Now, mobilize all medical ninjas in the medical unit who have the ability to protect themselves and start rushing to the battlefield with the medicine developed by Tsunade-sama, and at the same time, distribute the medicine to all combat units to restrain the White Zetsu clones. As long as the medicine can be successfully distributed and achieve the expected effect, then even if our top combat power doesn't attack, we can completely defeat the White Zetsu army with the strength of each combat unit. In Watergate's description, the battle against the White Zetsu army seems to be a victory. Not to mention others, at least as the temporary leader of the medical unit, Sakura's eyes were full of excitement. The first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War will be won in her hands? Sakura couldn't help but be fascinated by this feeling of glory. Thus, we will win for the shinobi world. Sakura took out the black gloves from her ninja tool bag and slowly put them on her hands. Sakura is not only an ordinary medical ninja, but also a ninja with great combat power under the guidance of masters like Xianxia and Tsunade. After finishing her declaration, Sakura saluted Minato and the other kages of the other villages and left the command center. Watching Sakura leave, the remaining 3 kages and the 2 staff officers couldn't help but cast their eyes on Watergate. Anticipating the enemy's moves, controlling people's hearts. Is this the 4th Hokage of Woodleaf Watergate? Although he's not as powerful as Hashirama, who is known as the god of shinobi in the records of various villages, there's no doubt that the 4th Hokage is more scheming and will use more means than Hashirama. Such a person, if he's an enemy, must be eradicated first. If they can win him over, they must do their best to maintain a good relationship with him. But at this moment, although Minato couldn't completely crush the other Kage in terms of combat ability, it wouldn't be easy to take advantage of him. With Watergate's order, the medical team began to act quickly. The wounded were received by the medical team to prepare for rescue, and bottles of potions to suppress the ability of the white Zetsu clones were also distributed. Every ninja who received the potions couldn't help but show some excitement in their eyes. After all, every ninja has their own pride in their heart. The most important reason why the White Zetsu unit can compete with the allied ninja army formed by the 5 great ninja villages is that the White Zetsu clones have extremely powerful transformation and stealth abilities. This battle made most of the ninjas very angry. The more angry they are, the more disgusted they are with the enemy's disgusting ability. When they had the potions in their hands to restrain the enemy's advantage, the ninjas of the allied ninja army were also full of confidence. As long as it's a head-on confrontation, every member of the allied ninja army believed that they can defeat the White Zetsu clones. And the fact is indeed similar to what everyone in the allied ninja army expected. When the potions were distributed on a large scale, the White Zetsu clones were directly forced to break away from their transformation and stealth state under the effect of the potions. The naked and pale body of the White Zetsu clones directly appeared in the eyes of every member of the allied ninja army. Since the target has been determined, everyone has no possibility of holding back. A gorgeous ninjutsu directly attacked the White Zetsu clones in the allied ninja army. After suffering a wave of ninjutsu attack, the number of remaining White Zetsu clones immediately decreased. The close-range combat forces and mid-range combat forces in the allied ninja army all rushed forward, taking advantage of the fact that the White Zetsu clones hadn't reacted from the onslaught, and immediately rushed forward to strangle the remaining enemies. The battle is actually such a simple thing. Although there are various policies and strategies, in the final analysis, it's just one sentence: take advantage of your weakness. If the enemy's defense is too perfect, then you have to find a way to make the enemy have a flaw. Now, the potions provided by Tsunade for the allied ninja army were to create a gap in the seemingly flawless armor of the White Zetsu army. At this moment, the allied ninja army was like a beast that had been hungry for a long time and suddenly smelled blood. They ferociously and violently attacked the White Zetsu army. Although a large number of White Zetsu clones were destroyed, the allied ninja army also suffered a great loss. Killing 1,000 enemies, not to mention losing 800, but at least 200 or 300. But for the current allied ninja army, the loss is not so important. What they need is not to care about temporary gains and losses. What they need is a spectacular victory, full of glory, enough to make everyone believe that their side can win the final victory. This battle is the first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War. The impact of winning will be extremely far-reaching. So in order to win, what the allied ninja army needs is actually very simple, that is, a victory that no one regrets even if they lose more. Chapter 610. There's a problem with our plan, and the attack of the White Zetsu army has been hindered. Black Zetsu stood beside Obito and described the situation on the battlefield at the moment. Black Setsu just started talking, but Obito already put his hand in front of Black Setsu. Obviously he didn't intend to listen to Black Setsu. At this moment, Obito's eyes had a Rinnegan that originally belonged to Uchiha Madara, and there's a strange connection between his eyes and the Geto Mazo. The clones of the White Zetsu were all born from the Geto Mazo, and now when Obito put all his attention on the White Zetsu army, he could feel the current state of the White Zetsu army with his Rinnegan. The large loss of the White Zetsu army was naturally perceived by Obito. It seems that the ninja allied forces have already noticed the weakness of the White Zetsu army and found a way to restrain the strange ability of the White Zetsu army. For Obito, all of this is actually a matter of time, although this time is indeed a bit too early. However, this situation didn't bring too much pressure to Obito. After all, the White Zetsu clones are actually consumables. As long as there is enough time and chakra, he can use the ability of the Geto Mazo to create more White Zetsu clones. It doesn't matter, the loss of the White Zetsu army is also within my expectations. Now inform Kabuto, it's time to let those who are deeply buried in the yellow earth see the light of day again. The defeat on the battlefield has made Obito decide to add the Edo Tensei army into the battle ahead of time. The fundamental purpose of this battle was to create enough pressure on the shinobi army composed of the 5 great shinobi villages. Although the Edo Tensei army entered the battlefield ahead of time, it was understandable. Understood, Black Zetsu looked deeply at Uchiha Obito, who was standing on the ground with indifference in his eyes, but in his heart, he also knew what Uchiha Obito was planning. Before the war, Uchiha Obito asked Black Zetsu to send a group of highly evolved White Zetsu clones to Kabuto. Through the short message sent by those White Zetsu clones before they died, Black Zetsu could roughly judge the strength of the current Edo Tensei army. But to be honest, these White Zetsu clones were summoned through the Edo Tensei. After all, they are existences between life and objects. Therefore, their power is limited a lot, and they can only use 70% to 80% of their strength. Although the nature of the Edo Tensei army is very difficult, as long as they can find a suitable method to seal the Edo Tensei army is the Edo Tensei. However, among these Edo Tensei, there was a huge bomb that Obito didn't notice. Yuto Madara. Black Zetsu doesn't know what Kabuto and Uchiha Obito are thinking. Even if Black Zetsu didn't deliberately guide Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, they still put their little abacus on Uchiha Madara, a peerless powerhouse. Perhaps in the eyes of Uchiha Obito and Kabuto, the Uchiha Madara they summoned is just a puppet with a powerful soul that they can control. A frog at the bottom of the well can't see the big sky. How strong Uchiha Madara is, Black Zetsu is actually the one who has the most right to say. Black Zetsu has been active in the darkness of the ninja world for countless years, and naturally he has seen all kinds of powerhouses, and Indra and Asura were also peerless powerhouses at that time. But even after such a long time, even after generations of reincarnations of Asura and Indra, the one who went the furthest and the closest to the six-path sage is Uchiha Madara. Such a person's life level has actually surpassed the ordinary life. As long as he is given the right opportunity, a peerless powerhouse like Uchiha Madara will definitely not be as simple as a puppet in the hands of others. But Black Zetsu won't say all this to Kabuto or Uchiha Obito, because in Black Zetsu's view, the person who can really resurrect his mother is not Uchiha Obito, who is now trying to become the column force of the Ten Tails. Obito's strength and talent is not enough. Uchiha Madara, who inherited Indra's chakra and is very close to the six-path sage, is the best candidate. The shinobi world is a huge flower bed, and the people are like flowers, always showing their beauty in the flower bed. But what can the flowers in the garden know? I'm just a flower gazer strolling in the flower bed. Let me slowly appreciate their beauty. Mother, let me pick all the beautiful flowers in this garden for you one by one as a gift for your rebirth. Black Zetsu has already sneaked into the soil, but when no one can see him, Black Zetsu's face showed a pure smile, like a child who has just arrived in the world, pure and flawless. Let's start preparing. It's time to let the ninja allied forces see how powerful the power in our hands is. Black Zetsu's figure suddenly appeared beside Kabuto, who has been preparing the Edo Tensei in his studio, although it seems that he is very excited, showing his desire for victory. But Kabuto still felt a touch of contempt for all life from Black Zetsu. Kabuto also felt this feeling from Obito, but Black Zetsu's aura was stronger and more obscure than Obito's. If Black Zetsu was not as cautious when facing Kabuto compared to Uchiha Obito, even Kabuto can't guarantee that he can really discover the essence of Black Zetsu. You don't need to say more, I will naturally do what I have to do. The reason why after Kabuto joined Akatsuki's camp, he had always been at odds with Black Zetsu. The first reason was because after he joined Akatsuki's camp, he and Black Zetsu were in a state of mutual hostility and competition. The second reason is that Black Zetsu's mind is so deep that it is difficult for Kabuto to accept it, which makes Kabuto's heart full of tension. This was because the more scheming one was, the more ambitious one was. Chapter 611. When Obito saw that Black Zetsu went to look for Kabuto with his order, he didn't stay in the same place and did nothing. Obito also made hand seals and cast a ninjutsu. After putting his palms together, Obito slowly squatted down and put one hand on the ground, while the other hand was still making hand seals to maintain the output of chakra. A large amount of chakra was transmitted from Obito's hands to the ground, and black runes were condensed from chakra. The runes formed a formation, and the formation was activated under the stimulation of chakra. Boom! A series of explosions sounded, and 6 white clouds of smoke appeared in the air around Obito. Rinnegan itself has the effect of controlling the body of others and giving them certain special abilities, but at this moment, Obito only has one Rinnegan, so Obito referred to Kabuto's method of controlling the Edo Tensei, and combined the method of summoning and controlling the Edo Tensei with the method of creating 6 paths doppelgangers with Rinnegan to summon several dead column force with the method of Edo Tensei. Using runes to control their bodies, and then injecting the power of 6 paths from Rinnegan into the bodies of several column force summoned by Edo Tensei, the bodies summoned by Edo Tensei were transformed to a certain extent. All the Jinchuriki summoned by the Edo Tensei are under the dual control of the Rinnegan and Edo Tensei, and to a certain extent, it also increases the strength of these Jinchuriki whose strength has decreased after the Edo Tensei. These are the 6 paths doppelgangers of column force that Obito specially created for his own plan. Moreover, the role of these 6 paths doppelgangers was not only to enhance the combat power of his own side, but also to strengthen the power of these column force summoned by Edo Tensei. At the same time, it was also to stabilize the Gedo Mazo that had gathered the aura of 7-tailed beasts. These 6 paths doppelgangers of column force actually had a large number of tailed beast chakra in their bodies, helping them to perform the tailed beast mode to enhance their strength, and also to prevent the Gedo Mazo from showing signs of going berserk due to the increasing power in their bodies. Yujito Nito, Yagura, Rashi, Fan, Yugao, and Fuku, from Nibi to the 7 former column force, all gathered here. Their bodies showed the characteristics of the Edo Tensei, and their eyes turned into a strange combination of left and right Sharingan. Although these eyes made them feel inexplicably out of place, the oppressive aura from them, it was enough to let everyone who saw them know that they were not to be trifled with them. They were all 6 paths doppelgangers that he could fully control and communicate with. Obito didn't say anything polite to them and simply gave them his orders. Cooperate fully with the Edo Tensei summoned by Kabuto, and do your best to help the Edo Tensei to suppress the ninja allied forces. Force the ninja allied forces to not hold back in the slightest. After hearing Obito's order, the 6 paths doppelgangers immediately took action and disappeared in front of Obito. On the other hand, Obito raised the Uchiha round fan on his back, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Judging from the ninja allied forces' current fighting style, they were actually delaying as much as possible and then hoping to drag the Akatsuki, which didn't have a strong foundation, into the abyss of defeat through a war of attrition. However, Uchiha Obito himself didn't want the battle to become an endless battle of attrition. Although relying on the characteristics of the Edo Tensei and the White Zetsu clone army, the consumption of Akatsuki's combat strength was almost negligible, but the longer the battle dragged on, the easier it was for variables to occur. To be honest, even in Uchiha Obito's view, his Eye of the Moon project was actually not so perfect. Once the time dragged on for a long time, the ninja allied forces would find a way to stop him from performing the Eye of the Moon project, and Obito's wish to see his beloved again and make the ninja world be in eternal peace will fail. Originally, I wanted to use external pressure to force the Nine Tails column force and the Hachibi column force to fight, but from the current situation, the reason why the 5 great ninja villages put the remaining 2 column force in the ninja allied forces camp is actually to protect and monitor them. After all, the strongest force of the 5 great ninja villages is the ninja allied forces at this moment. Although they are in the battlefield, the place where the ninja allied forces are stationed is also the place with the highest protection. The Hachibi column force and the Nine Tails column force are both impulsive. Once they are really imprisoned in a remote and hidden place, as long as they come in contact with the information on the battlefield, then they will do their best to escape from such imprisonment. They may even clash with those who guard them, providing an opportunity for me to capture them. Sure enough, there are still smart people in the ninja allied forces. It's better to let them go, especially column force who seems to be a little irritable and violent because of the chakra's influence. I want to give them a chance to fight, but not really put them in danger. With such a move, it's really hard to say whether it's Shikaku Nara's proposal or Minato Watergate's order. Uchiha Obito himself was also very calm about the situation, but even if he noticed that the ninja allied forces didn't want column force to fight, Uchiha Obito still seemed to have some wisdom in his hand. Controlling people's hearts is not only the unique ability of Minato Watergate and Shikaku Nara. After so many years of experience, Uchiha Obito naturally has his own unique understanding of people's hearts. The ninja allied forces' way of dealing with the 2 column force is indeed very unique and the effect is outstanding, but there is still an inevitable flaw, that is, column force is not a fool without intelligence. It may not be easy to find out that he is being comforted in such a way in the beginning, but once he is comforted in such a way from the beginning to the end, no one will be able to accept it. This kind of rejection is not a temporary accident, but an inevitable outbreak of doubts in his heart after a long time of precipitation. Now that Naruto and Killer Bee have been treated like this for a while, as long as all the doubts and dissatisfaction in their hearts are ignited in a suitable way, it will certainly blossom very interesting fireworks, right? Chapter 612. On the battlefield, the ninjas of the Allied forces fought fiercely against the White Zetsu clones. With the passage of time, the special ability of the White Zetsu clones was restrained. In fact, the scales of victory were slowly tilting towards the Allied forces. The White Zetsu clones were largely destroyed. This situation also made everyone in the Allied forces full of confidence. Although this battle is difficult, the Allied forces will definitely win. Although this war is very dangerous, as long as everyone works together to fight against the Akatsuki, victory will definitely belong to them. Humans were mystical creatures. As long as they had faith, they would erupt with power that was beyond common sense. And this faith is precisely the difference between the White Zetsu army and the Allied forces. Obviously, the White Zetsu army has been performing normally, whether it is individual strength or tacit understanding between each other, they have reached the textbook level. But when facing the ninja Allied forces, the White Zetsu army immediately showed a decadent appearance, and there were even some absurd scenes of defeat. Obviously, they are the stronger side, but they are being pressed on the ground. Everyone come on. The defeat of the White Zetsu army is already set. As long as you and I work together, the White Zetsu army is just a chicken and a dog, not worth mentioning. As the leader of the melee forces, Kitsuchi naturally saw the situation of the reversal of the battle, and his very forthright temperament at this moment made people feel particularly comfortable. Under the encouragement of Kitsuchi, the ninjas from different villages were also in high spirits at this moment. One by one, they raised their weapons and roared. "Ha! Everyone, let's rush up with me." Hearing the excitement of his subordinates, Kitsuchi may also feel that the hearts of the people are useful, so he immediately began to chase after the White Zetsu army. Ridiculous! Seeing that Kitsuchi actually led his subordinates to chase after the White Zetsu army, as the leader of the long-range attack force, Shikamaru Nara's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. The White Zetsu army is different from the ordinary army. Instead of saying that they are different independent individuals, it is better to say that they are puppets with the same mind control. How can such an army be judged by common sense? Seeing that the enemy was beginning to crumble, he directly led his subordinates to chase after them without caring about anything else? War is never a game that can be led by personal guesses. War requires a comprehensive plan and rational analysis. Shikamaru Nara frowned slightly, but he quickly made a decision. Ninja allied forces, listen to my orders. Everyone, start preparing defensive ninjutsu. Once the situation changes, we will immediately support the melee forces that are chasing the White Zetsu army. Close combat troops are an important force against Edo Tensei and even the entire Akatsuki organization. We can't afford to lose. It has to be said that although Shikamaru Nara had a lazy temperament, when he really shouldered the responsibility, he would exude a strange personality charm. Everyone who was close to Shikamaru Nara in this state couldn't help but admire Shikamaru. Although the original intention of the long-range attack team was to roam the battlefield in small teams, when needed, they would rush to the rescue of all friendly units. But when Shikamaru Nara passed down his orders, no matter which village they came from, almost all of them put down their affairs as much as possible and gathered directly. Magnet Release, Golden Dust Burial. Dust Release, Primitive World Detachment Jutsu. Just when the ninja allied forces were constantly chasing the White Zetsu army, the sound of two ninjutsu being cast directly echoed in the battlefield. Magnet Release and Dust Release? Almost all the ninjas on the battlefield began to think about who cast these two Kekkei Genkai and even Kekkei Genkai elimination, but the ninjas of the ninja allied forces didn't need to guess. The person who cast these two ninjutsu spoke again, making his voice reverberate throughout the battlefield. I am Sunagakyo's fourth dame, Kazekage Raza. Don't be impulsive, immediately withdraw from the attack range of my golden dust burial. Otherwise, even if we don't say that everyone will be in danger, we will definitely be injured. I am Iwagakyo's second dame, Tsuchikage. Don't touch my ninjutsu. Dust release will decompose everything it touches. The chakra contained in the dust release is enough to kill thousands of people. After receiving the warning, although the ninjas of the allied forces were a little stunned, they still listened to the words of the two Kages. Although there were still some people who were unlucky, and their abilities weren't strong enough, and they were affected by Raza and Wuji's ninjutsu, but overall, the allied forces didn't suffer too much loss. Now both of us are under the control of Yakushi's pocket, but because Yakushi's pocket needs to control too many people, it can't completely control our consciousness. So after we are controlled to cast any ninjutsu, we will immediately tell you the corresponding method to break it. You must be careful, although our strength has decreased, it's not something that ordinary non-Kage level ninjas can resist. Looking at the shinobi alliance formed by the various major shinobi villages in the battle, as well as some information about the current situation of the shinobi world under the control of Kabuto, although Raza found it hard to believe that the shinobi of the 5 major shinobi villages gathered together to fight against a single organization. After all, some of them were shinobi villages that he once led, and Raza wouldn't abandon this shinobi village that he deeply loved. With Raza and Wuji joining the battlefield, all the other ninjas summoned by Yakushi's Edo Tensei also joined the battle one after another. With the addition of these dead people, the battle situation that had already become clear became even more complicated and confusing. And don't know whether it was Yakushi's intentional planning or an unintentional coincidence, most of the ninjas summoned by Edo Tensei have a close relationship with the high-ranking members of the allied forces. The complicated relationship between the living and the dead brought about endless troubles. The Fourth Shinobi World War, it seems that from this moment on, all the participants of the war were in a terrible state. Chapter 613. On the main battlefield, strong people who had already passed away were constantly summoned by Kabuto using Edo Tensei. One by one, strong people who had already passed away joined the battle, which naturally made the ninjas on the battlefield and the personnel responsible for commanding the battle in the headquarters feel great pressure. It seems that the current situation on the battlefield is not so good. Uzumaki Naruto stood in the headquarters of the allied forces, Watching the ninjas rushing to the battlefield from the headquarters, Naruto was also very keenly aware of the changes in the battle situation. To be honest, from the heart of Naruto, in fact, Naruto hoped that he could set foot on the battlefield and fight with Akatsuki organization. But during this period of time, all the tasks assigned to him intentionally or unintentionally avoided the conflict with Akatsuki organization. But these tasks were either to protect the evacuation of important personnel or to transport materials, and the level of each task was also not low, which made Naruto no longer have an excuse to change the task with his father. After asking Killer Bee Hachibi Column Force, Naruto found that Killer Bee seemed to be similar to himself during this period of time. He was assigned a lot of very important tasks, but there was no conflict with Akatsuki organization. Although Naruto and Killer Bee were not so willing to guess the temperament of others, but the very similar experience of the two still made Naruto feel that something was wrong. The allied forces of ninja seems to have intentionally limited himself and Killer Bee within a certain range, letting the two of them complete the mission that can be completed by ordinary ninjas, and then directly separating the two of them from Akatsuki. So that Akatsuki organization has no way to find the two of them, Column Force, and the two of them can't meet the members of Akatsuki organization. Dad, is it because you don't want me to go up and fight with those bastards of Akatsuki organization? Such a way of doing things was too familiar to Naruto. He didn't have the slightest hint of falling out, nor did he directly tell you the truth. Through various indirect and directional guidance, he unknowingly led you to the script that the fourth Hokage, Minato, arranged for you. To be honest, Naruto doesn't like this way of doing things and attitude, but Wave Watergate is after all Naruto's father and the leader of a village. As a person who could decide the life and death of countless people with a single thought, it was normal for Shadow to be cautious and thoughtful. Naruto has no position to condemn his father, because everything done by Wave Watergate is impeccable. Using one by one, you completely can't refuse to guide you step by step, and in the end you will find that everything you do is the result expected by Watergate, and you can't find any reason to refute. Those guys of Akatsuki organization will absolutely not give up. Even if you use this way to stop me, Akatsuki organization will still use all kinds of ways to appear in front of me. Akatsuki organization is an organization full of dark souls, and almost everyone in this organization is particularly paranoid. Although Naruto didn't have any direct contact with the masked man who provoked the Fourth Shinobi World War and called himself Uchiha Madara, but it doesn't affect Naruto to label the masked man a common label common to most of the members of Akatsuki organization. Such paranoid people can even be said to be obsessed with the wrong way is very terrible. When they recognize one thing, they will do it regardless of the consequences and the risks they may bear. So although he doesn't know what kind of method Akatsuki organization will use to suddenly appear in front of him, Naruto can be very sure that no matter what kind of inescapable net the allied forces have arranged, Akatsuki organization will certainly appear in front of him in order to collect tailed beasts. Just when Naruto was a little bit sighing, a space ripple silently appeared behind Naruto, and Uchiha Obito's body appeared out of thin air in the jungle behind Naruto, silently like a viper preparing to capture its prey. Chakra secretly condensed in his hand, and mixed with the power of Rinnegan to create a black iron rod which has a very significant suppressive effect on chakra directly appeared in the hand of Obito. Be careful, Naruto boy. Behind you, there seems to be a bit familiar and disgusting aura. 9 tails hidden in Naruto's body, compared to Naruto's own perception ability. Almost when Uchiha Obito condensed Chakra Iron Rod and prepared to attack Naruto, 9 tails immediately warned Naruto to dodge. The familiar and disgusting feeling in 9 tails' mouth was naturally the same feeling that 9 tails himself was pulled out of the body of the 9 tails column force vortex Shina Kushina more than 10 years ago. The moment he was pulled out, 9 tails was controlled by Manjikyu Sharingan. The person who released 9 tails from the seal and then controlled him with his Manjikyu Sharingan is naturally standing behind Naruto at this moment. Although there are some changes in his attire, he still exudes an aura that 9 tails is familiar with and disgusted with. After hearing 9 tails' reminder and being vigilant for no reason, Naruto immediately displayed the 9 tails chakra mode. golden chakra flames and black runes covered Naruto's body in an instant. And under the Nine Tails chakra mode, Naruto's physical fitness and speed have increased to a level that ordinary ninja can't reach. Leaving a golden afterimage in the air, Naruto's figure has already left the place. And almost the moment after Naruto left the place where he stood just now, Uchiha Obito's figure wearing a gray-white mask, wearing a dark blue robe, and holding a black iron rod appeared in the place where Naruto stood just now. Looking at Uchiha Obito's posture, it was obvious that he was ready to attack Naruto just now. "Are you that bastard Uchiha Madara?" Looking at the place where he stood just now, Naruto shouted at the masked Uchiha Obito. If the person who appeared in front of Naruto was really the arrogant Uchiha Madara, maybe he would immediately attack Naruto. But after all, Obito is relying on his impression of the old and weak Uchiha Madara to act as a more mature and stable Uchiha Madara, so at this moment, Obito didn't immediately attack Naruto. Instead, he pointed his black iron rod at Naruto and said with appreciation, "Not bad, you can predict my attack in advance, and can use Nine Tails chakra so skillfully. It seems that even if I kill you, you are qualified to become part of my Six Paths clone." Chapter 614. So that's how it is. So you want to take away the tailed beast in my body, kill me, and turn me into a weapon in your hand to suppress everyone in front of you, right? Although Obito just said it casually, Naruto still combined some of the information he knew and analyzed a lot of Uchiha Obito's own plans from Obito's words. After hearing Naruto's words, even Uchiha himself was a little surprised. After all, in the information collected by Uchiha Obito, it was pointed out that although Naruto sometimes did some ingenious things in general, he was still like a fool who wasn't good at using his brain. But now, it seems that Naruto didn't seem to be as bad as the information said. In fact, he even hit the nail on the head. "You're not as bad as the information said." Hearing Obito's words, Naruto felt the surging tailed beast chakra in his body. His eyes became dignified, then he said to Obito, "It's useless to say more, let's fight." The golden chakra instantly condensed into two giant hands behind Naruto. Chakra's giant hands immediately clenched into fists and attacked Obito. The fists, which were almost the size of a millstone, attacked Uchiha Obito with overwhelming and unstoppable momentum. Uchiha Obito gently pulled the black iron staff in his hand and rushed directly in the direction of Chakra's giant hands without any intention of dodging. Unlike the previous times when Uchiha Obito faced Hyuga Takuma and Killer Bee, this time Obito didn't use his Kamui to make his body invisible and avoid Naruto's attack. Instead, he clenched the black iron staff in his hand, and a layer of slightly turbid mist-like gas with unknown attributes wrapped around the black iron staff. Like a sharp blade cutting through cloth, the black iron staff also directly broke through the giant hands condensed by Nine Tails chakra. Seeing that his chakra's giant hands were broken, Naruto didn't show any excessive shock, because this giant hand attack with almost no technical content was originally used by Ming-Ri to test Uchiha Obito's strength. When Naruto analyzed the physical strength and chakra waves that burst out from Obito's body when he cut his chakra's giant hands, a result that even Naruto didn't want to believe appeared in Naruto's mind. This conclusion is not a happy one but not a worried one. But it's also a happy one. Because Naruto found that this Uchiha Madara, who was standing in front of him, and kept saying that he would extract the tailed beast from his body and then use him as a weapon, is actually weaker than him in both physical and mental aspects. A shocking thought appeared in Naruto's mind. Could it be that this Uchiha Madara, the actual leader of Akatsuki, is actually a fake? Relying on his own special ability and acting skills, he deceived and played with everyone. If the truth is really like this, then doesn't it mean that as long as I find a way to restrain the masked man's special ability, I can completely kill this fake who doesn't have any powerful strength? The surprise in Naruto's eyes was because it came suddenly, so he didn't hide it at all. Standing in front of Naruto, the masked Obito naturally saw all the emotions in Naruto's eyes. Although he didn't know what Naruto was surprised about, but he still had a faint sense of crisis in his heart. He always felt that something important about him was spied on by Naruto. Although such a reason came without any reason, Obito still chose to believe in his intuition. No matter what, today he must not let Naruto escape from his hands. After making up his mind, Uchiha Obito also rushed in the direction of Naruto with two sharp black iron sticks in his hands. Naruto himself is not the kind of ninja who is particularly good at ninjutsu. Among the ninjutsu mastered by Naruto, he can only be regarded as proficient in Rasengan and Shadow Clone Jutsu. Although many variations of Rasengan have appeared under the joint research of Naruto and Watergate, but such a ninjutsu has its own limitations after all. It's not as strange and secretive as other ninjutsu, it's only suitable for frontal combat. Controlling Nine Tails chakra to recondense two chakra hands behind him, and with a wave of the hands, Rasengan with a bit of golden halo floated directly behind Naruto. Futon, Rasengan. Behind Naruto, 6 Rasengan were suspended in the air. But Naruto did not immediately release these Rasengan in the direction of Obito. Instead, he continued to inject chakra from Nine Tails into these Rasengan. The golden chakra flame spread to the Rasengan, and in a flash, the Rasengan became as dazzling as a small sun. Watching Naruto turn the original blue Rasengan into a golden chakra flame ball, Obito suddenly felt a little vigilant in his heart. Although doing this can indeed improve the power of Rasengan, Obito always faintly felt that Naruto seems to have other plans. Go! Chakra surged, and the 6 golden flame Rasengan suspended behind Naruto directly moved under the control of Naruto. These 6 golden flame Rasengan under the control of Naruto attacked directly in the direction of Uchiha Obito with an unpredictable trajectory. To be honest, seeing Naruto fight in such a way, Uchiha Obito was not worried. Because Uchiha Obito has the almost cheating ninjutsu, Kamui, if he wants to defeat him, he can only suppress him with space ninjutsu. But according to Uchiha Obito's understanding, the only person in this ninja world who has some attainments in space ninjutsu is the Yondaime-sama Naruto, Watergate. In fact, the application of space ninjutsu is a little rough, and it is very unrealistic to suppress Uchiha Obito who has the Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, in space ninjutsu. In other words, although Uchiha Obito is not invincible in terms of personal strength, but in a battle with his own special ability, Uchiha Obito can be said to be in an invincible position. Chapter 6:15. Because of Naruto's control of the Golden Flame Rasengan, Obito had no way to accurately determine from which angle the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan will attack him. But does Obito really need to know from which angle these Golden Flame Rasengan will attack him? What Obito needed to do was to predict in advance when these Golden Flame Chakra Balls will attack him, and then directly integrate his body into his Kamui dimension to avoid them. So at this moment, Obito actually looked at the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan that were rushing towards him in a mysterious trajectory with sarcasm in his eyes. He said to Naruto in an arrogant tone, but he didn't know it. I know what you're scheming. But Uzumaki Naruto, I still want to tell you a truth that even a 3-year-old child knows. In the face of absolute strength, any calculation is meaningless. Even if you can borrow the chakra of 9 tails, so what? Even if your research on Rasengan is profound, so what? In front of me, you can only get one thing, and that is failure. After activating Kamui, Obito's body instantly became full of an illusory aura. At this moment, although the Golden Flame Rasengan was constantly changing in a mysterious trajectory, after all, it didn't reach the expected position of Naruto, so the dispersion was not so obvious. Seeing Obito suddenly rushing towards himself, Naruto didn't panic at all. He directly controlled the 6 Golden Flame Rasengan to attack Uchiha's head, heart, and limbs. But after these Rasengan touched Obito's body, they directly penetrated his body, just like all the previous attacks that tried to attack Obito. However, Naruto didn't seem to lose his mind because his Golden Flame Rasengan didn't work. Instead, he directly controlled the Rasengan that directly penetrated Obito's body and rushed towards the sky. Under the control of Naruto, the 6 Rasengan directly collided with each other at the same time. It was already late at night, and the 6 Rasengan burning with Golden Flame Rasengan were already very conspicuous when they flew into the sky. When the 6 golden flame Rasengan containing a lot of chakra collided with each other, the huge explosion of energy also caused a great impact. The golden flame spread directly from the place where the 6 Rasengan collided as the center. It was as if a golden cloud suddenly appeared in the dark sky, dazzling and eye-catching. Even the bright and huge full moon before could only hide its existence next to the golden flame cloud at this moment. So that's how it is. Your attack is just a cover. Your real idea is to inform other ninjas to summon more ninjas to fight me? Looking at Naruto, who was wrapped in the golden flame chakra raiment, Uchiha Obito said slowly with a little appreciation. Although he was not afraid of an increase in the number of enemies, the more people he had to fight, the more likely it was that they would hurt him while he was casting his Kamui ability. Not to mention, if Hatake Kakashi, whose ability originated from the same source as his, came to his aid, it was very likely that he would be hindered. Now, after all, the Jubi has not been resurrected, and Obito believes that his strength is not enough to fight so many ninjas without exposing his true identity. If he can win, he will fight. If he can't win, he will say some harsh words and then take the opportunity to leave. This has always been Obito's attitude, and it is this cautious attitude, coupled with Obito's control of people's hearts, that Obito can manage the name Uchiha Madara so perfectly. Now such a name can't be abandoned so easily, so Obito's heart at this moment has already sprouted the idea of retreating. However, Obito is still very concerned about what Naruto found on his body just now, or what is wrong with him. If he leaves directly, will Naruto tell Minato Watergate about what he found on his body? After all, Naruto's identity is different from ordinary ninjas, the 9 Tails, Column Force, and the son of Hokage, so every word Naruto says will be taken seriously. If Naruto directly reports his prediction of Uchiha Obito's strength to the Allied Ninja Command, then after hearing such news, although they can't immediately judge the accuracy of the news, at least Hokage and Kazekage, who have a very close relationship with Naruto, will definitely believe in Naruto's judgment. If the situation really becomes like this, then the situation of the battlefield will definitely have some unexpected changes. The current battlefield itself is a certain distance from Obito's expectations to a certain extent. If there is any change outside of his control, it will undoubtedly cause a great obstacle to Obito's ultimate goal, the Eye of the Moon Project. The Eye of the Moon Project itself is the goal of Uchiha Obito's struggle for decades. Obito gave up a lot of things for this project, and even threw his soul into the darkness, doing a lot of things against his own heart. After paying so much, it is really difficult for Obito to accept the failure of the Eye of the Moon Project. When Naruto entered the 9 Tails chakra mode, he can keenly perceive the kindness and malice of others. At this moment, the evil intention of killing and the idea of temporary retreat came one after another in Uchiha Obito's body. But in the end, the evil intention of killing still took the dominant position. Sure enough, a battle can't be avoided. The reason why Naruto adopted such a strategy is in fact, hoping to put pressure on Obito's heart, so that Obito will have some self-awareness and directly retreat. After all, at Naruto's level of strength, as long as he starts to fight with all his strength, every move will cause a great impression. The 6 golden flame Rasengan that Naruto used casually before could directly produce a golden flame that covered half of the sky and covered the brilliance of the moon. But for Naruto, such an attack wasn't much different from a casual punch. In Naruto's heart, he hoped that Uchiha Obito can retreat by himself and leave the battle on the battlefield, but now it seems that this expectation is obviously in vain. Chapter 616. Although the outcome was not the same as what he expected, after all, Obito is an enemy that he can't avoid, and he will encounter such a situation sooner or later, won't he? But when Naruto's heart was really ready to fight Uchiha Obito, he finally once again examined the comparison of strength between himself and Uchiha Obito. Originally, Naruto thought that Uchiha Obito was an existence that surpassed him in all aspects, but through the contact just now, Naruto has discovered that Uchiha Obito, the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara, is actually not a super powerhouse that he can't resist at all. On the contrary, Uchiha Obito's physical fitness and chakra storage are not as good as him. After discovering this, Naruto actually found some opportunities to win. As long as he can find a way to deal with Uchiha Obito's strange space ability, then Naruto will be able to defeat Uchiha Obito. At this moment, Uchiha Obito was fighting Naruto with the intention of leaving Naruto here, but Naruto also faintly hoped that he can defeat Uchiha Obito here, and then directly kill this dangerous character who caused the Fourth Shinobi World War. At the same time, Naruto and Obito's eyes showed the light of excitement and expectation for the battle. Almost at the same time, Naruto directly used Nine Tails' chakra mode to cast the body flicker technique and disappeared, and Uchiha Obito also used his Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kamui, to directly escape into the Kamui space. The entire battlefield seemed to have completely disappeared at this moment, but every very short period of time, Naruto and Obito's figures would appear in a certain corner of the battlefield. And the moment the two figures appeared, they would immediately attack each other. The Rasengan in Naruto's hand and the black iron rod in Obito's hand collided again and again, but after the collision, Naruto and Obito seemed to have a tacit understanding and disappeared again to prepare for the next collision. To be honest, the repeated collisions also consumed a lot of chakra and physical strength of Naruto and Obito. Because Obito used Mangekyo Dojutsu from his bloodline, the consumption of chakra and physical strength was much less than that of Naruto. Although Mangekyo Sharingan's Dojutsu will cause the caster to lose his light, most of Obito's body was cloned from first Hokage Senju Takuma cells, so the consumption of Mangekyo Sharingan's power is almost negligible. Naruto himself is an Uzumaki, and has an extremely strong body and a huge amount of chakra storage. And at this moment, Naruto has almost unlimited chakra with the help of Nine Tails in his body. Therefore, Naruto and Obito have actually fallen into a battle of attrition at the moment. It's actually very simple to win, as long as the opponent's physical strength or chakra is exhausted. But for Naruto, there is still an advantage. After all, the place where the two of them are fighting is very close to the headquarters of the Allied Ninja Army. Although the movement of the two of them isn't earth-shattering, the golden flame cloud that spread over half of the sky and the powerful chakra fluctuation coming from here has already provided coordinates for the ninjas of the Allied Ninja Army. It won't be long before the ninja allied forces will definitely send strong people to support Naruto. Among the ninjas who will come to support Naruto, it is very likely that Minato Watergate and Hatake Kakashi will be among them. After all, one of them is Uzumaki Naruto's father, and the other is Uzumaki Naruto's instructor, and for Obito, these two people are very troublesome people for him. His former teacher and former comrade-in-arms are exactly the people who can find and even restrain his shortcomings. Hatake Kakashi also has Mangekyo Sharingan, and even the name of his dojutsu is the same as Obito's dojutsu. Not to mention Minato Watergate, during the Third Shinobi World War, he developed the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and improved it by Obito, and directly gained the name Golden Flash in the Shinobi World War, and later became the fourth Hokage of the Woodleaf Village in the Land of Fire. Once these two people really come, then Obito will have to fight against these three people, including Naruto, and the pressure will be too great. On one side of the battlefield, in a place that Obito couldn't see, a figure slowly appeared there. Wearing a white robe, it looked extremely bright and pure under the moonlight. A complicated blood-red pattern representing the blood cloth pavilion was delicately embroidered on the edge of the robe with silk thread, and on the back of the neck of this white robe, there was a red face and white handle fan pattern that was exactly the same as the masked Uchiha Obito's. The person who came had slightly long black hair, sword-like eyebrows, and a cold expression, and a silver long sword was directly in his hand. Uchiha Madara? Sasuke, who was wearing a white robe, poured chakra into his eyes, and a pair of eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that surpassed Mangekyo Sharingan appeared in Sasuke's eye sockets. Before Sasuke left the Blood Cloak Pavilion, his father, Uchiha Fugaka, had been replanted with a pair of ordinary eyes. After seeing that his father had fully recovered, Sasuke also volunteered to go directly to the battlefield to do his part for the Blood Cloak Pavilion. Nangongja naturally knew that Sasuke was actually worried that his close friend, Uzumaki Naruto, would be captured by Akatsuki, but Naruto also had a very special meaning for Nangongja. After all, Nangongja also watched Naruto grow up little by little, and he also did his duty as a teacher when Naruto was still young. Such a kind of friendship was not easy to erase. During the time Uchiha Sasuke was in the Blood Cloth Pavilion, in addition to waiting for his father's eyes to recover, he also had a preliminary mastery of the power brought by the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Even in a practice with Nangongja, Nangongja could only defeat Sasuke by using natural chakra. Such a pitiful creature who only knows how to dodge and only succumb to the darkness. If he is really the strongest person in our Uchiha clan in modern times, it's really sad. Chapter 617. On the battlefield, both Uchiha Obito and Uzumaki Naruto raised their perception ability to the limit. After all, the battle between Uchiha Obito and Naruto was actually a competition to see who would make a huge mistake first, and who would consume their stamina or chakra first. Any small mistake could cause them to fall into an irreversible situation. The two of them couldn't afford to relax at all. But at this moment, Uchiha Obito's heart suddenly had a touch of instinctive vigilance. Even animals have the ability to foresee danger almost like a sixth sense, not to mention Uchiha Obito, who has transplanted a Rinnegan and Senju Takuma cells in his body. When he collided with Naruto again, Obito didn't use the black iron rod in his hand to collide with Naruto's Rasengan like before. At this moment, Obito suddenly scattered the 6 paths aura wrapped around the iron rod in his hand and collided with the Rasengan with the black iron rod itself. The result was needless to say. The power of the Rasengan completely broke out, but Uchiha Obito himself was ready to meet the impact. With the help of Rasengan's powerful force, he quickly retreated backward. On the contrary, Naruto was stunned by the sudden damage he caused. What the hell is going on? Naruto looked at Uchiha Obito with a little doubt, but as a qualified ninja, Naruto immediately reacted. No matter what the reason is, Uchiha Obito completely endured his attack. Since his attack has already affected Uchiha Obito's body, even if all this is within Uchiha Obito's expectation, his body will inevitably have temporary weakness and chakra disorder because of the huge force of the Rasengan. And this situation is a huge advantage for Naruto. As long as Naruto can hit Uchiha Obito, who can't make his body hollow because of the chakra disorder, doesn't it mean that his side has won the battle? Activating the 9 tails chakra in his body, Naruto used the body flicker technique that exceeded the limit. Naruto's figure almost instantly appeared beside Uchiha Obito, but obviously, Uchiha Obito's recovery speed is beyond Naruto's imagination. Seeing Naruto suddenly appear beside him, Uchiha Obito immediately controlled his body to hollow, making Naruto's attack directly invalid. Sure enough. Is the troublesome guy coming? Obito directly ignored Naruto, who was standing on his side, and looked into the depths of the forest. Seeing that Obito directly ignored his existence, Naruto's heart couldn't help but become angry. After all, Obito was still fighting with him so seriously just now, but now he completely ignored him. Isn't this like playing with him? He waved his fist at Uchiha Obito's figure again and again, but he still helplessly passed through Uchiha Obito's body again and again. Sure enough, even if he found out that Uchiha Obito is actually weaker than himself, but without the means to restrain his strange space ability, is he still so powerless? You bastard! Looking at Uchiha Obito, Naruto shouted loudly. What's the emotion that can trigger the most anger in a person's heart? Without a doubt, it's the perception that you are powerless. This kind of anger is not only for the person standing opposite you, but also for yourself. Such a double anger, once it starts burning, it won't be so easy to stop. Even in Naruto's heart, he knows very well that he must not lose his mind at this time, but the flame of anger directly burned Naruto from the inside out. Sure enough, are you still the same idiot as before? A slightly cold voice appeared in Naruto's ears. Such a voice was like a clear spring water gathered from ice and snow, directly extinguishing the raging flame burning in Naruto's heart. Even Obito, who has been attacking Uchiha, also stopped. Naruto completely ignored Uchiha Obito at this moment. Instead, he turned his head and looked around, as if trying to find a very familiar figure. Finally, Naruto's line of sight and Uchiha Obito's line of sight fell on the same place. At the foot of the forest, a purple figure stood so tall in the forest. There was no way for the tall trees to hide this huge purple figure. Instead, it made this figure even bigger. Susanoo. Complete form. The figure was almost as huge as a mountain. The purple figure was wearing a heavy purple plate armor, wearing a crow tengu mask, a pair of wings folded behind Susanoo's back, and two swords that looked simple and full of majesty were hanging by Susanoo's waist. At this moment, Susanoo truly corresponded to its name, and stood between the heavens and the earth like a god that had descended to earth. With his enhanced eyesight because of entering the Nine Tails chakra mode, Naruto vaguely saw Sasuke's figure on the huge Susanoo's chest. Sasuke put his hand on his chest and began to print. Susanoo, who was outside, also raised its huge hands and made a hand seal. It looked exactly like Sasuke. Susanoo can Great Fireball Jutsu. The complete form of Susanoo can cooperate with the person who summoned it to perform ninjutsu, and the power of ninjutsu can be greatly increased. At this moment, Sasuke began to perform ninjutsu with this ability. The original C-level Great Fireball Jutsu, after being blessed by Susanoo, now has the power of a B-level ninjutsu, and the coverage is also very large. Looking at the flames rushing towards them, Naruto and Uchiha Obito also made their own reactions. Body Flicker Jutsu. With the blessing of Nine Tails Chakra, Naruto's figure directly flashed out of the attack range of Great Fireball Jutsu. Kip, Storm Dance, Reverse. Obito urged his Mangekyo Sharingan to once again use Kamui, and all the flames around him were absorbed into his Kamui space. Chapter 6:18. Although the range attack ninjutsu that Sasuke used just now actually covered him, Uzumaki Naruto, who was in the Nine Tails chakra mode at this moment, could distinguish a person's kindness and malice, and Sasuke was full of kindness. Although his heart was full of joy of reunion, the strange way of getting along between Naruto and Sasuke still made it impossible for Naruto to directly express his joy of meeting him again. Instead, he said to Sasuke with a bit of fake anger and boredom, "You stoic face, who exactly are you calling an idiot?" Hearing the familiar sarcasm from Naruto, Sasuke's heart was also full of nostalgia. In the past, he, Naruto, and Sakura, didn't they walk forward step by step? But because of the pursuit of strength, he gradually alienated these two people who opened their hearts to him. After experiencing so many things, in fact, Sasuke is no longer as paranoid as he was when he was a child. For the current Sasuke, although he still pursues powerful strength, he is not as blind and desperate as before. Sasuke has also grown a lot, and gradually put his eyes on the things around him. The most obvious thing is that Sasuke no longer escapes from the fetters between himself and Naruto, Sakura, and even more people, but chose to directly face his inner feelings. Since he cherishes them so much, why should he deliberately alienate them? I'm no longer a weak child. With the power I have now, I can be regarded as a person standing at the top of the ninja world. So why don't I do my best to protect these things that I cherish? Of course it's you, you idiot. Don't you know how to use your brain when fighting? Controlling Susanoo, Sasuke and the huge Susanoo rose into the air together, and directly spread the wings behind them and flew towards the place where Naruto and Obito were. Although high in the sky, Sasuke's voice was still very obvious in Naruto's ears. You know that you have no way to deal with the opponent's ability, but you still want to keep the opponent here. At the beginning, you knew how to signal others for help, but at this time, you attacked the enemy like a crazy beast. Saying that you are an idiot is already praising you. After all, you were an idiot before. Being rebuked by Naruto, Sasuke naturally wouldn't be silent, but he also said to Naruto in a sharp tone. And from Sasuke's words, it seems that Sasuke was able to find this battlefield because he saw the flame cloud burst out from Naruto's golden flame Rasengan. Hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto directly jumped, but Sasuke was controlling Susanoo to fly in the sky at this moment, making it difficult for Naruto to realize the idea of fighting a war of words. Looking at the interaction between Sasuke and Naruto, Obito even felt that he had become an outsider. He could only look at Sasuke and Naruto, who seemed to dislike each other but were full of flashbangs. Really envious, no hateful. Fortunately, at this moment, Naruto and Sasuke still remembered that there was an enemy here. After the two ridiculed each other like this, they also turned their attention to Uchiha Obito. With Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan beyond Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan level, Sasuke easily saw through Obito's Manjikyu Sharingan. It was just a Manjikyu Sharingan with the ability to communicate space, but in Obito's body, there was a very pure Uchiha clan bloodline, and the gap between his generation and the current generation was not so big. Although he couldn't accurately judge the age and identity of Uchiha Obito, he was definitely not a person of Uchiha Madara's era. A person who hides his head and shows his tail is not worthy of the name of Uchiha. I, Uchiha Sasuke, the current Uchiha clan head, hereby announce that you are deprived of all rights as the Uchiha clan. The glory of the Uchiha clan will never be allowed to be tarnished by a rat like you. Yes, before leaving the Blood Cloak Pavilion, Sasuke had been officially awarded the title of Uchiha clan head by his father, Uchiha Fugaku, although there were only a few people left in the Uchiha clan at this moment. However, Uchiha Fugaku still held a ceremony worthy of the status of Uchiha clan with the help of Nangongja. At this moment, Uchiha Sasuke was the head of the Uchiha clan. As the head of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke naturally also has the right to expel people from the Uchiha clan and deprive them of their surname. For a long time, Obito thought that he didn't care about his identity as a member of the Uchiha clan. After all, Obito didn't show such amazing talent when he was a child, and the clan's attitude towards Obito was very dull and even indifferent. But when Sasuke really said that he was going to deprive him of his surname, Obito's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. His parents and grandparents were all members of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, he was deprived of the Uchiha surname by the head of the clan, which also means that he no longer has any relationship with his parents and grandparents that can be recognized by the public. So what? The name of Uchiha has long been dispensable to me. Although there was inevitably a touch of sadness in his heart, Obito didn't want to show it in front of Naruto and Sasuke. Instead, he continued to force himself to speak to Naruto and Sasuke in an almost indifferent tone. Looking at Obito's appearance, Sasuke's heart was slightly disappointed. Has he really forgotten about the pride of the Uchiha clan? Slowly unsheathing the silver long sword in his hand, Sasuke's figure also disappeared directly into Susen. In a flash, Sasuke's figure directly appeared behind Obito, and the long sword in his hand gently cut off the Uchiha clan tattoo on Obito's navy blue robe. In this case, you no longer have the right to keep this Uchiha clan tattoo and weapon that symbolizes the Uchiha clan. With that, Sasuke directly grabbed the Uchiha clan's weapon that Obito had been carrying on his back, Uchiha round fan in his hand. Chapter 619. When Obito saw that Sasuke appeared directly behind him and took away the Uchiha clan emblem and Uchiha round fan at a speed that he couldn't react to, Obito's heart became alert. Obito activated his hollow ability to the highest level, but even so, Uchiha Obito still couldn't feel safe. Sure enough, Manjikyu Sharingan alone can't fight against Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than my own. Obviously, when Sasuke suddenly appeared behind him and took away his weapon and Uchiha clan emblem, Obito actually fell into a brief sluggish state. Such a sluggish state came suddenly and unreasonably. This situation can only remind Obito of a ninja's attack method, Genjutsu. Uchiha clan's Sharingan itself has the special ability of Genjutsu I, and when Sharingan evolved to the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, such Genjutsu I has naturally been greatly improved. Although he can't be 100% sure, Sasuke probably inadvertently used Genjutsu I on him just now. In the past, Obito once used the Genjutsu I of his Manjikyu Sharingan to control the 4th generation Mizukage of the Mist Village, but he didn't expect that Genjutsu would be suppressed by the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which is a level higher than his Manjikyu Sharingan. Although he lost his weapon and his Uchiha clan's name, Obito had no intention of getting back at them at this moment. After all, Naruto, who has superior physical fitness and chakra reserves, and Uchiha Sasuke, who has surpassed him in Sharingan level, have joined forces against him at this moment. If he continues to fight with them, Obito really felt that it would be difficult for him to win, and it was even likely that he would suffer some injuries. Now is not the time for us to fight. Let's meet again when the final battle begins. Looking at Sasuke and Naruto, Uchiha forced himself to look more mysterious and said to Naruto and Sasuke. Hearing Uchiha Obito's contemptuous tone, Naruto couldn't hold back his temper any longer. He immediately controlled the Nine Tails chakra to condense chakra palm behind him, and prepared to use Rasengan to attack Obito again. But at this moment, Naruto wasn't alone here. Beside Naruto was Uchiha Sasuke, who had always been very calm in battle. Sasuke directly stretched out his arm and blocked Naruto behind him. Now is indeed not the time to fight Uchiha Obito directly. After all, for the current ninja allied forces, Uchiha Obito is still a person who can judge their strategic intentions. If Sasuke and Naruto really do their best to keep Uchiha Obito here, what will the result be? It's nothing more than Akatsuki without a leader, and the conflict between Black Zetsu and Kabuto will be ignited again. At that time, Akatsuki's two forces will stir up a bloody storm in the ninja world. It's simply unimaginable. Naruto, whether he's bluffing or really has something to rely on, now is not a good time for us to fight him. At this moment, the front battlefield has fallen into an extremely anxious situation, and a large number of strong people who have died are fighting with the ninja allied forces. Looking at Obito's body slowly integrated into Kamui space and disappeared directly. Sasuke briefly explained the information he obtained from the front battlefield to Naruto, and then looked at Naruto with a very serious expression. War is not a collision of personal strength, nor is it a game that can be won directly by perfect strategy. If you want to win the war and make the ninja world peaceful, what you need the most is not the strength of the body, but the strength of everyone's heart. The human heart is the most magnificent treasure created by heaven and earth, and such a treasure naturally contains the most powerful strength. Now what the ninja world needs is not only the victory of the war, but also the elimination of estrangement from the top and the bottom. I know that I don't have the ability to open people's hearts like this, but you do. You are the warm sun in the deep darkness, shining the darkness in everyone's heart. If there is really someone in this world who can bring peace, in fact, the most likely person is you. Sasuke, who has never been so good at expressing his heart, at this moment, suddenly said so many encouraging words to Naruto, and even said that he was not Naruto. Such a change made Naruto somewhat unexpected. If it wasn't for his chakra perception telling him over and over again that the person standing in front of him was Uchiha Sasuke, who had been bickering with him since childhood, Naruto would have started to attack this Uchiha Sasuke, who was completely different from his impression. Uchiha Sasuke has learned to be humble, which is the most impossible thing Naruto has ever heard. I say, are you really the Uchiha Sasuke I know? Naruto looked at Sasuke, and said to Sasuke tentatively. Hearing Naruto's words, Sasuke's face couldn't help but show a smile, and the silver sword in his hand directly hit Naruto's head with the scabbard. I say, are you really a fool? Obviously, he didn't say anything good, but Naruto was completely sluggish. Sasuke, the Uchiha Sasuke I know, what kind of expression is on his face now? Is Sasuke smiling at the moment? Although it's just a shallow smile, but after knowing Sasuke for so long, this is almost the most brilliant smile Naruto has seen from Sasuke. Naruto, people always have to grow up. Although in many times, we have experienced a lot of pain, but these pains are also the best nourishment for our growth. Originally, I had been resisting and avoiding this kind of pain. But now I understand that there are a lot of things that can't be avoided. Only when you really decide to face them, can you be regarded as a qualified ninja, a qualified man. Chapter 620. Looking at Sasuke, who has become very different from his impression, Naruto's eyes flashed with a trace of trance. When he and Sasuke were in ninja school, they were a pair of very famous problem children. One was not good at communicating with people and rejected all people who tried to get close to him. The other was a ninja with mediocre talent and liked to use pranks to attract the attention of others. But now, looking at himself and Sasuke, both of them have grown a lot. Although he can't say whether it's good or bad, he's getting further and further away from his past self. However, such thoughts only appeared in Naruto's mind for a moment and disappeared directly. After all, Naruto is not a compassionate person. Although he felt a little emotional at the moment, Naruto prefers to look forward. Sasuke, you just said that the battlefield ahead is very anxious, and a large number of Edo Tensei troops were also sent to the front line. What's going on? When Naruto's mood completely calmed down, he finally began to look at the most critical problem now. This is the first official battle of the Fourth Shinobi World War. Originally, according to the prediction of the ninja allied forces, such a battle should actually be a confrontation between the two sides to test each other. But over time, both Akatsuki and ninja allied forces began to invest a lot of power in it. This kind of feeling is not like testing each other. It's almost the same as the decisive battle in the final stage of the war. Moreover, this behavior of constantly adding combat power is almost completely under the leadership of Akatsuki. After losing the initiative, ninja allied forces can only be forced to continue to invest their own combat power. I'm not very clear about the situation on the front battlefield now. After all, when I came here, I actually just took a quick glance. After sensing your chakra, I immediately rushed to your location. Although the battle between us and the masked man didn't take long, the situation on the battlefield is unpredictable, so I think we should rush to the front battlefield immediately. Sasuke naturally has no need to lie to Naruto. At the moment when Sasuke arrived, many Kage-level powerhouses Edo Tensei had already appeared on the battlefield. When he was in ninja school, Sasuke preferred some classes that could increase his combat power. In fact, he didn't listen to much about the history of ninja world. He just remembered the physical characteristics of some particularly powerful ninjas. And it was a hurried glance on the battlefield that made Sasuke find many people he felt familiar with. The former Kage of various villages and some famous peak ninjas. To be honest, if Sasuke faced these powerhouses alone, even if he now has the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, he would still have a huge sense of crisis. So now, in fact, Sasuke has a lot of doubts about whether the ninja allied forces can defeat these former peak powerhouses. This is also one of the reasons why Sasuke persuaded Naruto not to pursue Uchiha Obito. After all, the main forces fighting against the ninja allied forces are actually the 100,000 White Zetsu army led by Black Zetsu and Kabuto, who commanded the Edo Tensei. From Uchiha Sasuke's point of view, it is actually more cost-effective to kill Black Zetsu and Kabuto than to kill Uchiha Obito. Time waits for no man. Let's rush to the front battlefield as soon as possible. After hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto was also a little anxious. After all, his father was also on the front battlefield. If the enemy sends Edo Tensei Kage-level powerhouses, then his father, as a Kage-level powerhouse, is also likely to be killed. Father, please don't let anything happen to you. Although Naruto used to reject his father very much, it has to be said that under Watergate's deliberate management, the relationship between Naruto and Watergate has also been greatly eased. Just like now, although he knows that Watergate is very powerful as a son, Naruto still can't help but care about his father. Sasuke looked at Naruto and could feel his emotions from Naruto's body. Putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder, Sasuke said slowly to Naruto, "Don't worry, I'm faster, I'll take you to the front battlefield." After watching Uchiha escape, the Nine Tails chakra mode on Naruto's body has been lifted. After all, the Nine Tails chakra mode also causes a great burden on Naruto's body. Now that it has been lifted, it also made Naruto's body slightly weak. Naruto's physical condition was naturally seen by Sasuke, and Sasuke also had his own plans at the moment. So he directly put his hand on Naruto's body and cast his eternal Mangekyo Dojutsu, Susan. He didn't exert the power of Susanoo to the maximum limit. After all, the two of them were only using Susanoo's speed to travel, and other offensive and defensive abilities could be temporarily abandoned. Susanoo, which was almost skeletal, had a pair of very complete wings behind it. Naruto and Sasuke, who were wrapped in Susanoo, directly flew into the air with Susanoo towards the center of the battlefield. Susanoo, burning with purple chakra flames, flew towards the battlefield, and the ninjas in the battle naturally saw this very conspicuous Susanoo in their eyes. Byakugan open. On the battlefield, Hyuga Hinata was fighting with White Zetsu's clone opposite her. After perceiving the familiar aura of Susanoo flying over her, Hinata also directly used Gentle Fist to force White Zetsu's clone opposite her, and then used her Byakugan to observe Susanoo passing through the sky. Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun. Although Susanoo itself was shaped by high concentration chakra, Sasuke at this moment didn't stimulate Susanoo to the maximum extent, so the skeleton state of Susanoo could still be observed by the naked eye. Feeling the huge pressure naturally emitted from Sasuke and Naruto, Hinata's eyes flashed with a trace of powerlessness. After all, two people of the same age as her have reached the strength to directly participate in the main battlefield of such a shinobi world war, but looking at her now, dealing with a mass-produced clone of White Zetsu was so difficult, the sense of powerlessness inevitably swept Hinata's heart. Chapter 621. The war won't change because of the thoughts of one of the participants. Although Hinata's heart was full of sadness because of her weakness, as a ninja, Hinata could only swallow the unwillingness and sadness in her heart and condense chakra in her hand again and rush toward White Zetsu's clone that she had just forced back. At this moment, Naruto and Sasuke had no intention of watching the battle between the ninja and White Zetsu's clone, because the situation in the center of the battlefield has become very critical. 5 figures stood in the center of the battlefield. They were like mountains, unmoving and filled with a powerful aura. Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu, Sandame Reikage, Fourth Tsuchikage Raza, and Fourth Tsuchikage Yagura. Although each of them belonged to different eras, at this moment, in the camp of Akatsuki, the 5 kages of the 5 major ninja villages were also gathered. At this moment, Second Tsuchikage has already cast his own special ninjutsu Split Jutsu and Spotless Maze. Almost every once in a while, a small transparent cube will be released from one or more corners of the battlefield to attack the members of the ninja allied forces. By reducing the attacking power and increasing the launching speed, Dust Release. Detachment of the primitive world jutsu was skillfully launched again and again at the location of Wu and his clones. Although every time he launched such an attack, Wu would remind the ninja allied forces, but there were also many ninjas who had no way to react, so there were many seriously injured ninjas who fell to the ground, the wounds on their body unceasingly flowing blood, soaking the ground. Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu, also summoned his summon beast, Bai. After the huge Bai was summoned, it also cooperated with Second Tsuchikage, Genjutsu and Genjutsu to hide their figures. Similar to the Second Tsuchikage, the Second Mizukage used the ability of the skeleton to hide his body. However, in order not to overlap with Second Tsuchikage's attack, Second Tsuchikage Genjutsu used a ninjutsu called Water Release, Water Balloon Jutsu. This ninjutsu allowed him to change his figure and spit out a slightly viscous water from his mouth at the same time. When this water touched an object, it would immediately explode, causing damage. Fourth Tsuchikage, Yagura, was not inferior to Second Tsuchikage at this moment. The red-tailed beast chakra wrapped around Yagura's body, forming a layer of tailed beast raiment. 3 chakra tails were constantly swaying behind Yagura's back. After all, there was no real sanbai in Yagura's body. He was only relying on a part of chakra that Uchiha stripped from the Jubi's body to maintain his tailed beast mode. Therefore, although there were 3 tails on Yagura's body, the chakra raiment was very thin. But in any case, the energy level of a tailed beast chakra is far beyond the chakra of an ordinary ninja. Moreover, 3-tailed column force and 4th Tsuchikage Yagura were famous for being able to control their tailed beast chakra. At this moment, with the power of Manjikyu Sharingan and Rinnegan that Uchiha took from Uchiha Obito, they were able to tame their tailed beast chakra. Yagura's hands were constantly forming hand seals, and a water release ninjutsu mixed with the Sanbai's chakra was constantly released. In the blink of an eye, countless water release ninjutsu merged together and rushed towards the place where the ninja allied forces were. Increasing the amount of chakra output, Yandei Mizukage created a small lake in the center of the battlefield almost in the blink of an eye. Water dragon technique, water shark technique, all kinds of water release ninjutsu were cast by Yandei Mizukage. And unlike other Edo Tensei, Yagura didn't accept the half-control and half-freedom of Yakushi Kabuto. At this moment, Yagura was completely under the control of Uchiha Obito. He spared no effort in casting ninjutsu and didn't care about the casualties of the ninja allied forces. So during this battle, it was Yagura who caused the most damage to the ninja allied forces. Yagura's role wasn't limited to this. As one of the 6 clones of Uchiha Obito's Rinnegan, Yagura and Uchiha Obito also shared vision. Yagura was also an important existence for Uchiha Obito to monitor the movements of the ninja allied forces. The 4th Mizukage Raza, who appeared together with the 2nd Mizukage, was now using sand release to control the golden sand, making his body float on the battlefield. The golden sand entered the ground under the control of Raza, constantly crushing the stones and soil to collect the golden sand, preparing to cast a larger range attack ninjutsu. Sandaime Raikage's body at this moment was surrounded by a large number of blue and white lightning, piercing left and right in the crowd. Sandaime Raikage also didn't open his mouth to remind the ninjas of the ninja allied forces. After all, after using Raitun chakra, Sandaime Raikage's speed, except for the 4th Mizukage Watergate who is proficient in space ninjutsu, and Uzumaki Naruto who has entered the 9 Tails chakra mode, no one can escape. Even if he opened his mouth to remind others how and where he attacked, in the end, they still couldn't avoid his attack. Although the 5 Kage-level powerhouses didn't cooperate with each other, their individual strength was enough to make the ninjas of the ninja allied forces unable to breathe. Although the ninjas were doing their best to deal with it, the gap in strength wasn't so easy to offset, and the casualties of the ninja allied forces were increasing. Just when the 5 Kage-level ninjas were still doing whatever they wanted, Uchiha Sasuke controlled Susanoo, flapping its wings, and landed in the middle of the battlefield. Looking at the burning purple chakra flame of Susanoo, every ninja of the ninja allied forces was full of vigilance. Among the 5 Kage, the 2nd Tsuchikage, the 2nd Mizukage, and the 3rd Raikage's eyes flashed with a hint of fear at the same time. And when Susanoo's flesh and blood became plump under Sasuke's control, and his body was covered with the Crow Tengu armor, these 3 Kage-level powerhouses who had seen Uchiha Madara's experience of beating up the shinobi world couldn't help but have some panic in their hearts. This is the strongest ninjutsu that Manjikyu Sharingan can trigger, Susanoo. Chapter 622. Feeling the gaze of the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and thousands of ninjas, Sasuke didn't have any special feelings. When Sasuke obtained the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, his state of mind gradually changed. Except for those who he agreed with, Sasuke didn't care so much about other people's views on him, whether good or bad. So that's how it is. Are they all the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages? I said that even if the 5 great ninja villages have been rotten over the years, they wouldn't be beaten like this. It turns out that the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages were beaten so miserably by the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages. Seeing that their juniors have fallen like this, perhaps these seniors couldn't suppress their disappointment in the juniors in their hearts, so they beat them so heavily? Looking at the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and the ninjas of the ninja allied forces on the battlefield, Sasuke didn't hesitate to open the group mockery mode. As soon as he said this, the 5 Kage-level powerhouses and the ninjas of the ninja allied forces on the battlefield all blushed and couldn't speak for a long time. Kabuto, who was controlling the 5 Kage-level powerhouses in the Akatsuki headquarters, also temporarily relaxed his control of the 5 Kage-level powerhouses. After all, Kabuto was also quite interested in Sasuke's direct mockery. To be honest, when he saw Sasuke directly riding Susanoo into the battlefield, Kabuto's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. After all, Kabuto got a lot of information about Manjikyu Sharingan from the research of Uchiha Obito and Orochimaru. At this moment, Sasuke can directly use the complete Susanoo, which proves that Sasuke's eyes have become the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, which stands at the peak of Sharingan. With such a pair of eyes, once Sasuke stepped into the battlefield and directly stood on the side of the ninja allied forces, then he would use the full power of Susanoo to directly attack the 5 former Kage summoned by himself. Kabuto wasn't completely sure whether the 5 Kage could defeat Uchiha Sasuke, who had the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. However, when Sasuke just appeared on the battlefield, he didn't hesitate to ridicule the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki at the same time. Kabuto was first surprised that Uchiha Sasuke, who had always been very indifferent to people, could become so eloquent. Secondly, he was surprised that Sasuke didn't take any side action after joining the battlefield. Instead, he directly cut off the possibility of cooperation with the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki. So what kind of confidence and capital made Uchiha Sasuke make such a choice? After all, in Kabuto's view, although Uchiha Sasuke wasn't a person with high EQ, he was also a person with high IQ. Now it's the time of the 4th Shinobi World War. No matter how powerful a person is, as long as he wants to live in the shinobi world, he must be attached to a force. Since Sasuke has now shown his intention not to join the ninja allied forces and Akatsuki, then which force did Uchiha Sasuke join the battle on behalf of? Of course, through the eyes of Edo Tensei, Kabuto also saw the slightly complicated blood-colored lines on Uchiha Sasuke's white clothes. A guess appeared in Kabuto's heart, but Kabuto hid all this guess in his heart and was not ready to reveal it to anyone. Sasuke, what are you doing? Unlike Sasuke, Naruto is a person with high EQ or hidden EQ. After hearing Sasuke's words, he instinctively noticed that something was wrong, so he immediately stopped Sasuke from continuing. Originally, because Naruto was wrapped in Susanoo, most of the ninjas didn't notice Naruto's figure, but when Naruto spoke to stop Sasuke, they heard it clearly. Why did Nine Tails Column Force appear in this place? Didn't you say that you have protected Column Force well? Although he didn't know Naruto, Sandaime Raikage still sensed the huge chakra from Naruto's body. Killer Bee Sandaime Raikage knows the Hachibi Jinchuriki, so now the only person wrapped in Susanoo is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. They clearly knew how terrible the Akatsuki was, but they didn't hide their Jinchuriki well, and now they let their Jinchuriki directly appear on the battlefield. If the Akatsuki really wanted to take Column Force away at this moment, what kind of power will the ninja allied forces rely on to protect Column Force? Is it these ninja allied forces that were beaten by the 5 of them, or is it this Manjikyu Sharingan holder who doesn't know the severity of the situation? Although Sandaime Raikage's words were a bit vulgar, he also said the thoughts of the other Kage. After all, as a member of the Edo Tensei of Akatsuki, several Kages were very clear about how powerful the Akatsuki is. No one can give Sandaime Raikage an answer. After all, even the ninja allied forces didn't know why Naruto suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Sasuke naturally won't give Sandaime Raikage any answer. After all, Sasuke really doesn't have any respect for a dead person whose soul was wantonly played with. Instead, Sasuke's eyes looked at Goku Yagura, who was still attacking the ninja allied forces when the other Kages summoned by the Edo Tensei stopped moving. Seeing Goku Yagura's Rinnegan and Sharingan, Sasuke's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Now Sasuke actually doesn't care so much about most things, but now the behavior of the masked man who called himself Uchiha Madara is no different from discrediting the Uchiha clan and pushing the Uchiha clan to the opposite side of the ninja world. This, Sasuke absolutely won't allow it to happen. After sending out Naruto wrapped in Susanoo, Sasuke put his mind completely on controlling Susanoo. Susanoo's huge palm was placed on the long sword at his waist, and slowly pulled out the long sword, and all the lightning attribute chakra gathered in the long sword in his hand. Raitan Chidori blade. Under Sasuke's violent roar, the long sword wrapped in lightning directly slashed towards Goku Yagura's head, directly wanting to take his life. Chapter 623. Although Yagura's own strength is enough to rank among the top Kage tier ninjas, after all, Yagura was summoned to the shinobi world through Edo Tensei, and Uchiha Obito himself only has one Rinnegan, which caused Yagura's own strength to decrease to a certain extent, and he doesn't have the special ability of Rinnegan's Six Paths clone. The complete Susanoo waved the long sword in his hand, and the blue and white lightning wrapped around the long sword in his hand. In order to make Susanoo's attack more fierce, Sasuke even attached some of his own chakra sword aura to the long sword. The three powers were added to Yagura's body at the same time, and there was almost no resistance. Yagura's body was directly cut in half by Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo. Just one sword attack directly cut a Kage tier ninja's body. Sasuke's understated move directly made everyone present involuntarily feel palpitations and fear. In the long history of the shinobi world, naturally, many people have surpassed the limit of ordinary ninja and became the kind of peerless powerhouse who can resist a village or a country alone. But how old is Uchiha Sasuke at this moment? The Uchiha clan's extermination incident can be said to have caused a sensation in the entire shinobi world, and most people have a basic understanding of Sasuke. At this moment, Sasuke, who is only 17 years old, can already beat a Kage tier ninja on the ground. So when Uchiha Sasuke really grows up in the future, what kind of terrifying scene will it be? Naruto, who was just sent out of Susanoo's body by Sasuke, saw Sasuke directly cut Yagura into two halves before he could stand still. Such a scene also shocked Naruto's mind. Although Naruto thinks that he can also defeat a Kage tier ninja like Sasuke, it's absolutely impossible for him to directly cut such a strong person in half like Sasuke. When Yagura's body was directly divided into two parts, Sanbai's chakra in Yagura's body suddenly broke away from the dual control of Edo Tensei and Rinnegan, and a chakra full of Sanbais will directly rush towards Naruto. Although Naruto himself didn't notice that a trace of chakra that didn't belong to him rushed into his body, Naruto's body still had an existence born from chakra, Nine-Tails Demon Fox Kurama. Aisabu. When this chakra that belonged to Sanbai secretly entered Naruto's body, Nine-Tails immediately noticed the aura that belonged to Sanbai. In fact, the relationship between the nine-tailed beasts wasn't that bad. After all, although the nine-tailed beasts have different personalities, they grew up together, and their understanding of each other is beyond anyone else. Sanbai Aisabu himself has a gentle temperament, and there is no conflict between him and Nine-Tails, so when Sanbai entered Naruto's body, Nine-Tails didn't directly release his power to erase Sanbai's will. Kurama, it's been a long time. I didn't expect that the shinobi world is such a small land, but it directly separated the nine of us from each other. The only chance to see each other is when we're sealed in other people's bodies to fight. Aisabu himself has a gentle temperament, and the tone of his speech is also very different from his slightly ferocious appearance, but his tone is so casual that it's almost cruel. But although his words are cruel, for the nine-tailed beasts, this is the life of a human who covets their strength. So why did you sneak into this stinky brat's body? Nine-Tails didn't express his opinion about Aisabu's words. The temperament of a fox is naturally a bit cold. For these tailed beasts who share the same origin as him, although Nine-Tails instinctively has a bit of closeness, but that's it. To Kurama, meeting or not meeting was not something that could tug at his heartstrings. Hearing Nine-Tails' slightly unfriendly tone, Aisabu didn't get angry. Instead, he chuckled a few times and said to Kurama, "Presumably, you also have a slight premonition in your heart. Soon, we are likely to return to our original form, the Jubi sacred tree. But we have existed as independent individuals for so long, what if your consciousness is erased again and you become an existence that only knows how to destroy?" Initially, Nine-Tailed Beast acted as if it had nothing to do with him. However, after hearing Jifu's words, Nine-Tailed Beast's eyes involuntarily flashed with a trace of panic and fear. After all, if there was one thing that all nine-tailed beasts had in common, it would be their pursuit of freedom. Any life will instinctively yearn for freedom in the bottom of their heart. The nine-tailed beasts are sealed in the body of the Jinchuriki. They can only wait for the death of the Jinchuriki in the dark, and then enter the body of another person with no resistance. The cycle is endless. This kind of life is very difficult for Kurama to accept. If he really returns to his origin and loses his will, Nine-Tails would rather die now than lose his soul. So this is the backup plan you prepared for yourself, hoping to use the undying chakra on this stinky brat to resist the fear of returning to your origin? In fact, every tailed beast can discover Naruto's uniqueness. After all, every tailed beast has seen Azura and Indra. If he wants to prevent himself from returning to the Jubi, the power of the Otsutsuki clan is indispensable. After living in the ninja world for so many years, the tailed beasts have also been constantly absorbing the knowledge of the world. Although their bodies are in beast form, few people can surpass the nine-tailed beasts in wisdom and knowledge. But the more knowledge they have, the more powerless the nine-tailed beasts feel. The huge ninja world is like a playground for the Otsutsuki clan. Countless wars between people are actually because of the family conflicts of the Otsutsuki clan. This is the tragedy of the tailed beasts. This is the tragedy of mankind. This is the tragedy of countless ninja worlds. Hearing Nine Tails' words, Isabu didn't speak, but his sincere eyes directly looked at Nine Tails. Isabu has no choice. Nine Tails has no choice. All nine-tailed beasts have no choice. Chapter 624. Just when Naruto was still standing on the edge of the battlefield, a golden figure suddenly appeared beside Naruto. "Naruto, why are you here? Why don't you go back with me?" The moment he saw Naruto's figure, Watergate immediately scolded Naruto seriously. Flying Thunder God Jutsu was originally Watergate's proud ninjutsu. Naturally, Watergate also imprinted the mark of Flying Thunder God Jutsu on Naruto's body early. When Watergate received the battle report of Naruto's appearance on the battlefield, he immediately panicked. In the battle report about Uchiha Sasuke, Watergate didn't listen at all and directly used Flying Thunder God Jutsu to appear beside his child. If it was usual, hearing Watergate scolding him like this, Naruto would be very dissatisfied and defend his behavior. But now, when Watergate scolded him, Naruto became silent. He just stared blankly at Susanoo standing in the middle of the battlefield. After seeing that his child was safe and sound, Watergate finally calmed down and looked at Susanoo standing in the middle of the battlefield and Uchiha Sasuke wrapped in it. Uchiha? Looking at Sasuke's figure, Watergate's heart was also slightly emotional. When the Uchiha clan was exterminated, Watergate wasn't in the Woodleaf Ninja Village, but Watergate still learned the truth of the incident from the handbook left for him by the three generations. Although the fundamental reason for the extermination of the Uchiha clan was because they wanted to have a coup d'etat. In fact, the ones who were really wrong in the Uchiha clan were only those who stood at the top. Most of the ordinary civilians of the Uchiha clan actually didn't support or even know the decision of the top leaders of the Uchiha clan, but even such people, Root Ninja or Danzo standing in the shadows and three generations still directly slaughtered the Uchiha clan under a tacit understanding and put the blame on Itachi Uchiha. From Watergate's point of view, in fact, Watergate didn't think that the decision made by the three generations Hokage and Danzo was a wise choice. Only timid people will be afraid of potential threats, and people with real courage will face those threats head-on. The Uchiha clan was indeed very dangerous. After all, their Kekkei Genkai, Sharingan, was simply a cheating device. If it weren't for the temptation of their Kekkei Genkai, presumably Danzo wouldn't have cooperated with the three generations Hokage to exterminate the Uchiha clan. But even if the Uchiha clan was a threat, at least most of the Uchiha clan members didn't make any mistakes. In Watergate's view, the best plan was actually to kill only the leaders, and it would be better to directly announce the crimes committed by these leaders one by one. In any family, there will be smart people. In fact, they can actually see who is right and who is wrong, or who is strong and who is weak. As long as the right method is used, they can completely tame the Uchiha clan. If the current Woodleaf village still has the Uchiha clan, then the strength of the Woodleaf village will definitely soar. However, these are all things in the past. Even if Watergate doesn't agree with the approach of Sandaime and Danzo, from Watergate's identity, he can't say anything against it. Taking a deep look at Uchiha Sasuke, Watergate didn't speak. He just put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, and, Flying Thunder God Jutsu, was instantly launched. Naruto and Watergate's figures directly disappeared from everyone's sight. Sasuke naturally also noticed Watergate's gaze, but Sasuke also didn't say anything. After confirming that Yagura couldn't be recovered in a short time, he directly poured his chakra into Susanoo and controlled it to fly directly into the sky. Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters, a golden flash flashed, and Watergate directly appeared in the command headquarters with Naruto. As the Hachibi Column Force, Killer Bee was also directly summoned to the Ninja Allied Forces Command Headquarters by Yondaime Reikage. At the end of the Third Shinobi World War, in fact, Watergate fought with Killer Bee and more than once, but those were all things in the past. Watergate, Killer Bee, and A also miraculously had a sense of identity because of the previous conflict. When he saw Watergate, Killer Bee was also a little excited. However, Watergate's face wasn't so good now, which made Killer Bee somewhat don't know how to talk to Watergate. Similar to Watergate, Yondaime Reikage AI's face was also a bit unfriendly. Uzumaki Naruto, A was preparing to reprimand Naruto. After all, as the target of Akatsuki, Naruto directly appeared on the battlefield. What's the difference between such behavior and seeking death? But after all, Uzumaki Naruto is a ninja of the Woodleaf Ninja Village, and Naruto's father, Watergate, is on his side. Whether it's for business or personal reasons, A shouldn't be the one to reprimand Naruto. So as soon as he called out Naruto's name, A wisely closed his mouth. However, Killer Bee, who was standing on the side, was very keenly aware of the anger on his brother's body. Obviously, because of Naruto's matter, his brother was angry to a certain extent, but because he was taking care of Watergate's mood, he forcibly suppressed his anger. Looking at his brother's angry appearance, even Killer Bee's heart was a little bit scared. Watergate's face was no longer carrying the usual gentle smile. At this moment, Watergate's face and eyes were a bit cold. Originally, I didn't want to ground you. After all, I know your temperament. I know that even if I give an order to ground you, you will definitely find a way to escape from the cage I built for you. But Naruto, you really let me down. Do you know how important you are? If you are really kidnapped by Akatsuki, how serious the consequences will be. Even if you don't know these, then you should know that if you have any accident, how sad your mother and I will be. Naruto, you are not a child anymore. What you're facing now is no longer a one-on-one ninja, but an organization with a terrifying plan. So since gentle methods don't work on you, then I have to use some forceful means. Chapter 625. Finally, under Watergate's anger, Naruto was directly deprived of his freedom of movement. Killer Bee, who didn't cause any trouble, was also directly affected. Naruto and Killer Bee were temporarily imprisoned in the headquarters of the Allied Ninja Army. After the battle subsided a little, Watergate decided to send a team of ninjas to personally escort Naruto and Killer Bee to the giant turtle island mentioned by the Yondaime Reikage. Accompanied by a team of Naruto and Killer Bee were sent to the rear of the camp at the same time. Originally, Naruto was very unconvinced in his heart. After all, he appeared on the battlefield in the hope that he could help his father and the Allied Ninja Army. After getting the recognition of Nine Tails, his strength has surpassed most ninjas. It is really difficult for Naruto to stay in the camp and watch others fight for the future of the shinobi world. However, Watergate's words directly stabbed Naruto's heart like a knife. If Naruto really didn't have any relatives in the world at this moment, naturally, no one can stop Naruto's stubborn temper, but at this moment, there are two of his closest relatives in the shinobi world. Naruto can ignore others, but his father and mother are existences that Naruto can never ignore. Along the way, Killer Bee also tried to talk to Naruto, but Naruto was in a bad mood, so he naturally ended the conversation easily. After arriving at the tent prepared by Watergate for Killer Bee and Naruto, this team of didn't leave. Instead, they directly hid near Naruto and Killer Bee's tent. These will be responsible for the security of Naruto and Killer Bee's tent. They will also keep an eye on Naruto and Killer Bee so that their two important people, Column Force, won't leave. After entering his tent, Naruto lay directly on his bed. He opened the slightly damp quilt and wrapped his whole body in it. Holding a pillow in his hand, Naruto opened his eyes and looked at the air in front of him. Sure enough, I'm still too weak. Gently opening his mouth, Naruto couldn't help but murmur to himself. Why didn't his father agree with him appearing on the battlefield? Along the way, Naruto has been thinking about such a question. Naruto thought a lot along the way, but even if he was dizzy, Naruto still couldn't think of any clues. But when he came to the tent and collapsed on the bed, Naruto's mind couldn't help but recall the scene where Sasuke used Susanoo and directly cut Yonde Mizukijigura in half. When did Sasuke become so powerful? And unlike himself, Sasuke has an indescribable aura of a strong man. Although he has experienced a lot of hardships along the way, when his father Watergate returned to the village and took the position of Hokage, Naruto himself was more or less taken care of a lot, and his life has been very happy over the years. Living a happy life is indeed a good thing, but living a happy life is also an important reason for people to be lazy. Born in sorrow and die in peace. This is the best portrayal of a ninja. A ninja wants to make great progress and want to become a truly respected strong person. The most important thing is to endure hardships and grow in them. Although Naruto didn't know all of Sasuke's experiences over the years, he also knew some of them under the deliberate collection. Although Naruto hasn't experienced such pain, just thinking about it made Naruto tremble with fear under Orochimaru's hands, and the heart-wrenching pain of killing his brother with his own hands. Just thinking about it made Naruto feel frightened. Thinking about it, Sasuke has become so strong because he has so many experiences, right? How good would it be if I could become stronger? Yes, if he was really strong enough. Stronger than his father, stronger than the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha. Then how could he be trapped here without freedom? Naruto didn't have the slightest resentment and unwillingness to Watergate, who locked him here, and Uchiha Sasuke, who went further on the road of the strong. There was only powerlessness and loss for his own strength. Now Sasuke may be shining on the battlefield, right? It's really enviable. With a sigh in his mouth, a kind of inexplicable sleepiness directly hit Naruto's heart. Closing his eyes, Naruto also gradually fell asleep. In the void beyond the ninja world, a figure stood in the void space. This person's eyes glowed with a golden light, as if penetrating countless uncontrollable things and directly looking at something. Compared to Indra, Asura's growth is still not fast enough. Although in terms of strength, if Asura, who stimulated the Nine Tails chakra mode, performs normally, and Indra's eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is not that big of a difference. However, compared to Indra, the Asuras of this generation had a much happier family and life. Without tempering, naturally, there will be less progress. It seems that only I can help him. The golden light in the eyes of the figure became brighter, and even in the blink of an eye, it had condensed into a light beam and shone towards the place where his eyes were focused. The light lasted for a moment before the figure closed his eyes again. He murmured softly, "That's right. Perhaps that's about it. I've created a realistic dream for Asura that's comparable to the suffering Indra experienced. Although Golden Millet Dream seems illusory, everything experienced in the dream is real and not fake for Asura. As long as he can absorb nutrients from such a dream, Asura will definitely make great progress." The figure seemed to be very satisfied, and even nodded with a bit of relief. Because the eyes that were shining with golden light were closed, the face of the figure also became clear. His wrinkled cheeks and grayish-white hair were proof of his identity. It was Hagoromo Sannin who once appeared in front of Kurama, but at this moment, Hagoromo Sannin was full of an illusory feeling, clearly visible to the naked eye, but full of a feeling of nothingness. Chapter 626. Naruto, who was lying on his bed, fell into a deep sleep. His face became very pale at this moment, and even drops of cold sweat the size of soybeans couldn't help but flow from Naruto's forehead to his bed. Naruto's body, which was tightly wrapped in the quilt, was trembling at the moment, and even the quilt was soaked by the cold sweat on his body. At the moment, Naruto's face was very ferocious. Obviously, he was enduring great pain. Naruto's mind has been completely immersed in his own dream. At this moment, Naruto was like a bystander looking at his own dream. The protagonist of the dream was none other than Naruto himself. But the Naruto in the dream was completely different from the Naruto in reality. In the dream, the day Naruto was born was the day he lost his father and became an orphan. Although Woodleaf Village was a peaceful village, most of the people in the village were blind people. Under the deliberate guidance of some people hidden in the dark, Naruto's life in Woodleaf Village alone was not so good. Although Sandaime was still so kind and amiable, occasionally he would show some concern to Naruto as an elder. But in the dream, because of the death of the fourth Hokage, Minato Watergate and Uzumaki Shinakushina, Sandaime was quite tired to deal with it. Although Sandaime was very concerned about Naruto, to be honest, the time he could spend with Naruto was too little. Without the company of his mother, without the careful teaching of Nangongjia, Naruto's childhood was almost spent in the discrimination and oppression of his peers. The darkness filled Naruto's childhood in the dream. Naruto tried many times to communicate with the 9 tails in his body, but when he couldn't get rid of such a genjutsu, he finally began to face these things in the dream. When Naruto began to look directly at the dream, Naruto also slowly integrated with himself in the dream. As a freshman, he entered the ninja school, made friends, graduated as a ninja, one by one. Things similar to Naruto's own memory, but with some differences, appeared in the dream, and as the experience in the dream happened one by one, Naruto's own heart began to be in a trance, and he began to be unable to distinguish the difference between the dream and reality. He was just living in such a dream, with a completely integrated mentality. Although his childhood in the dream wasn't so happy, it was precisely because of the shortcomings in his heart during his childhood that Naruto understood how precious friendship and bondage are. In the dream, Naruto still got the approval of the 9 tails, and still had a lot of close friends. To some extent, Naruto in the dream was more mature and wiser than Naruto in reality. Sure enough, although time passed in the dream, the 4th Shinobi World War that swept across the entire Shinobi world still broke out. The dream also came to an abrupt end at this moment. Naruto was forcibly expelled from the dream and woke up again in reality. Ho, ho, ho! Naruto struggled to open his mouth and gasped for breath. It seemed like only by absorbing a large amount of oxygen could Naruto relieve his physical and mental fatigue. However, with Naruto's intense breathing, a faint smell of blood rushed into Naruto's nose. The smell of fresh blood had clearly just appeared. Naruto no longer had the time to use his rapid breathing to calm his sleepiness. He immediately flung away all the blankets on his body and directly jumped up from the bed to rush out of his tent. The moment he opened the curtains of his tent, the faint smell of blood became even more obvious. 9 Tails Chakra Mode, open. Gently closing his eyes, Naruto began to mobilize the chakra mode assigned to him by 9 Tails. Golden flames and black lines directly covered Naruto's body. After entering the chakra mode of 9 Tails, Naruto's perception ability has been greatly enhanced. He directly perceived that the Umbu team that escorted him and Killer Bee has been slaughtered. In Killer Bee's tent, for some reason, Killer Bee fell into a deep sleep. His vigilance as a ninja is very unreasonable. It's as if it exists in name only. Just as Naruto was about to enter Killer Bee's room, he woke up Killer Bee, who had fallen into a strange sleep. But just as he walked near Killer Bee's tent, a hostile aura directly appeared behind Naruto. Body Flicker Technique. Directly activating the chakra in his body, Naruto used the Body Flicker technique to leave his original place. A man wearing a dark red robe with long white hair suddenly appeared behind Naruto's original place. Naruto has never seen Nagato, but in the dream, Naruto replaced his father, defeated 6 Paths of Pain, and became the hero of Woodleaf. Such a white-haired, stooped figure with Rinnegan is naturally the leader of Akatsuki, the controller of 6 Paths of Pain, Nagato. And because of Edo Tensei, his legs, which had lost the ability to move due to the forced summoning of Geto Mazo, have become intact at this moment. Although the power of Rinnegan has many shortcomings because it is simulated by Edo Tensei, Nagato's own strength at this moment is definitely not reduced but increased. He dodged quite fast. Looking at Naruto's figure, the corner of Nagato's mouth couldn't help but show some emotion. 9 Tails, Column Force, Uzumaki Naruto. It's a bit ridiculous to say that Namikaze Watergate, and you can be regarded as Jiraiya Sensei's disciples, but you are Namikaze Watergate's child. Should I call you junior brother or martial nephew? Although Nagato's mouth was chatting with Naruto unhurriedly, because Nagato's body was actually not under Nagato's control, Nagato was also attacking Naruto with fierce moves at this moment. His somewhat smiling face and the fierce moves in his hands formed a sharp contrast. And because the taijutsu displayed by Gekido's power is also constantly absorbing the chakra in Naruto's body at this moment. Although Nagato has no way to control the violent Nine Tails chakra, the body of Edo Tensei does not feel pain at all and has an extremely strong recovery ability, so Naruto is also in an extreme disadvantage in the battle with Nagato. Chapter 627. Facing Nagato, who could exert most of his strength, Naruto was also under pressure at this moment. When all the special abilities of 6 paths of pain were gathered in one person's body, and these abilities were used flexibly, they did exert a powerful power that could turn something rotten into something magical. Although Naruto also heard the details of the battle with 6 paths of pain from his father, and even listened to his father's careful analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of each of 6 paths of pain. Even in his muddle-headed dream, Naruto also defeated 6 paths of pain and became the Woodleaf hero. But at this moment, Pain only used a part of the power of Gekido and combined it with the power of Tendo to make Naruto suffer. Moreover, Naruto had just broken free from a torturous dream, and his memory was actually in an extremely chaotic period. Now, Naruto could forcibly suppress his physical and mental fatigue and barely fight with Nagato. This was already a manifestation of Naruto's mental toughness. In such a mental state, it was indeed not so easy for Naruto to gain an advantage over Nagato. Although the scene looked very hot, Nagato didn't show any room for mercy every time he made a move. But Naruto was still like a small boat in the storm, shaking but firmly floating on the lake without falling. A small white snake about the size of a thumb quietly poked its head out of Nagato's wide robe. The white snake kept sticking out its tongue as if trying to sense something, and the eyes of the white snake were not empty like ordinary pythons. On the contrary, there was a bit of human brilliance in the eyes of this white snake. After observing the battle between Naruto and Nagato for a while, the white snake also slowly retracted its body back into Nagato's wide robe, and its eyes, which were originally full of human color, became empty again at this moment. Although the Rinnegan was a little gray-black, at this moment, the slightly purple part of the eyes was directly filled with gray, and the Rinnegan, which was originally composed of purple and black, has become gray-black at this moment. Sure enough, I shouldn't give Nagato's consciousness too much independent space. He even intentionally or unintentionally distorted the orders I gave him through his spiritual force. Fortunately, I put an insurance on him in advance. Uzumaki Naruto, 9 Tails Column Force. Contribute the tailed beast in your body, and let you become a cornerstone for the eternal peace of the ninja world. From Nagato's mouth, a gloomy voice suddenly appeared. Without much guessing, Naruto already knew that at this moment, Nagato has completely become a marionette in the hands of Kabuto Yakushi. Controlling Nagato to gently close his hands, a large number of chakra began to surge in his hands, and a small black sphere slowly appeared in Nagato's hands. Chibaku Tensei, go dash. From Nagato's mouth came the voice of Kabuto Yakushi, and the black sphere in Nagato's hand directly shot towards Naruto. Not good. Naruto, don't enter the gravitational range of this black sphere. 9 Tails, who has been in Naruto's body and silently perceived what Naruto did after getting his power, finally reminded Naruto under the threat of Chibaku Tensei. Chibaku Tensei, that is the ninjutsu that once sealed the body of Jubi and formed the bright moon in the sky today. Whether it was the reminder of 9 Tails, the fear of being surrounded by Chibaku Tensei in the dream, or the constant sense of crisis from his heart at this moment, all of them were constantly forcing him to leave the gravitational range of this small black sphere. But in the face of such a ninjutsu, is it really possible to escape? Although at this moment, Nagato was under the control of Kabuto Yakushi, and he himself was in the state of Edo Tensei, so there was no way for him to exert his strongest strength, but even so, Chibaku Tensei was not something that Naruto could resist at this moment. Naruto used the body flicker jutsu again and again to go farther away from the core of Chibaku Tensei, but the powerful gravitational force still continued to pull Naruto's body, attracting him. Originally, Naruto could rely on the movement range of his body flicker jutsu and his physical strength to resist this gravitational force to a certain extent, but as time passed, the gravitational force from the black sphere not only did not weaken, but also became more and more intense. Damn it! Brat, work harder. We must not be sucked in. Nine Tails, who was sealed in Naruto's body, finally decided not to hide his strength at this moment. After all, for Naruto, now is a critical moment that determines his life and death, and for Nine Tails, it is the same. Once he is really captured by the person who is trying to resurrect Jubi, he will return to his origin and turn into the original Jubi sacred tree. Then what is the difference between killing Nine Tails and killing him? In order to save their own lives, whether it is a human or a tailed beast, they will do their best. This is the desire to survive engraved in the depths of every creature's bloodline. Naruto opened his mind completely to Naruto, and all his will merged with Naruto's. A large amount of chakra rushed into Naruto's body without any hindrance. At this moment, Naruto and Nine Tails were truly integrated into one. The golden chakra flame that originally burned on Naruto's body gradually solidified at this moment. The illusory flame turned into silk threads that intertwined and formed a golden trench coat that reached his knees. The black patterns that originally spread on Naruto's body expanded at this moment, adding a black lining and pattern to the golden trench coat. Feeling the huge amount of chakra rushing out of his body, Naruto couldn't help but roar at the sky. With a confident smile at the corner of his mouth, Naruto murmured to Nine Tails in his body. Nine Tails? No, I should call you Nine Llama. Don't worry, I won't let what you fear become reality. Because he had completely shared his mind with Nine Tails, Naruto naturally felt what Nine Tails was worried about from Nine Tails' mind. Nine Tails also obtained a part of Naruto's memory from Naruto's dream. Although he still felt a little uneasy, Nine Tails' mouth still curled into a smile when he heard Naruto's words. He said to Naruto, "Brat, if you have time to worry about me, you might as well do your best to protect yourself now." After hearing Nine Tails' words, Naruto's smile gradually disappeared. The chakra on his body surged and the golden flames almost instantly formed the huge body of Nine Tails. He grabbed onto the ground with his claws and stood in front of the Chibaku Tensei that had absorbed a lot of rocks and soil. Chapter 628. After entering the Kurama mode, Naruto's eyes also changed from the previous blue appearance to scarlet eyes. A pair of eyes with a bit of violence, just staring at the huge Chibaku Tensei in front of him and Nagato who was suspended behind it like a god overlooking all living beings. Naruto, we are running out of time. The body condensed with chakra can only last for a while, so you have to listen to what I'm going to say next. Although Chibaku Tensei is very powerful, it's not like there is no way to deal with it. In the hands of Hagoromo, Chibaku Tensei can directly seal the body of Jubi. If we face such a Chibaku Tensei, we have absolutely no room to fight back. But now that this kid is using Chibaku Tensei, we already have some room to resist, then I have a way to deal with it. If any ninjutsu wants to maintain, it must rely on the supply of chakra from the caster. From the point that the power of Chibaku Tensei is constantly increasing, this kid is definitely constantly injecting chakra into the core of Chibaku Tensei. So if we want to deal with Chibaku Tensei in front of us, the best way is to directly use our strongest attack to kill the caster and make him stop the chakra attack on Chibaku Tensei. Without the chakra supply, Chibaku Tensei will directly turn back into rocks and soil. As Nine Tails said, this method is not very smart, but it is also an extremely practical method. Hearing Nine Tails' words, Naruto also nodded slightly and then said, I'm not very clear about so many theoretical things, but Kurama, what you just said is the only way we can think of now. Regardless of whether it succeeds or not, we have to give it a try. Seeing that Naruto did not reject his proposal, Nine Tails also controlled the body condensed with chakra to gather the nine tails together. Chakra gathered into a sphere, and the yin and yang attributes of chakra were mixed in a ratio of 2:8, and a black sphere appeared directly in the center of the nine tails. This Bijadama didn't take too long to brew. Overall, it was about the same size as the head of nine tails formed by chakra. Kyuubi directly swallowed the semi-finished black Bijadama in his mouth. His belly swelled a little bit, and he directly opened his mouth, and a colorful beam of light that couldn't be described with words rushed from his mouth to Nagato, who was suspended in the air. Although this process sounded very complicated, in fact, it only took a very short time. The huge beam of light shot directly in Nagato's direction. At this moment, Nagato was under the control of Yakushi's pocket. Such long-range control naturally had a certain disadvantage. Because of his slow reaction, Nagato was almost hit directly by the Bijadama. Looking at Nagato's body directly submerged in the beam of light, Naruto and Kurama's hearts slightly relaxed. After all, for Naruto and Kurama, this kind of ninjutsu that sealed the Jubi really caused a lot of psychological pressure on them. So, now it's over. Naruto was just about to communicate with Kurama in his body to retract the huge chakra, but before he could finish his words, Kurama in Naruto's body suddenly shouted, "Brat, be careful." After hearing Kurama's words, Naruto's heart also flashed with a sense of crisis, which also urged Naruto to quickly leave his current place. However, even though he was on high alert, his body still needed some time to react. One by one, black crows appeared in front of Naruto. The black crows gathered together one by one, and Itachi Uchiha, who was also wearing a dark red robe, also appeared in front of Naruto. Itachi Uchiha's eyes had turned into the Mangekyo Sharingan at this moment. The original whites of his eyes were completely covered by black-gray. Obviously, Itachi Uchiha was also completely under Yakushi's control. Mangekyo Dojutsu, Tsukuyami. The triangular windmill in Itachi Uchiha's eyes spun at high speed, and Naruto, who was opposite Itachi Uchiha, was directly pulled into Tsukuyami's world. Naruto had actually entered Tsukuyami's world and received Tsukuyami's attacks. He understood how terrifying the feeling of time, pain, and even everything being controlled in Tsukuyami's world was. In Tsukuyami's world, no matter how long it took, it was only an instant to the outside world. In the outside world, Naruto's face turned pale almost instantly. Kurama mode was also forcefully deactivated. Looking at Naruto's state, it was obvious that he was relying on his willpower to hold on. As long as he relaxed, he would definitely fall into a coma. The Chibaku Tensei in the sky also lost its power supply at that moment. It shattered into pieces and smashed to the ground. The immense force caused dust to splatter. This dust turned into a magnificent background behind Itachi Uchiha. No matter how much the world fluctuated, it didn't seem to be able to change the pace of Itachi Uchiha walking towards Naruto. Could it be that God really wants me to be defeated here, and then take back my life and the free will of the entire ninja world? Naruto couldn't help but have such a question in his heart. After all, the information obtained from Nine Tails' memory and the experience in his dream made Naruto occasionally feel that there was an irresistible existence like fate in this world. Just as Naruto was constantly denying and doubting himself, a sentence suddenly appeared in Naruto's mind. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. Heaven and earth are ruthless, treating all things as straw dogs. But are we really straw dogs? Every human has their own will and their own pursuit. If the world is really regulated by the development process and all the changes in our lives are really regulated, then this is the time for us to exert our spiritual power. How can I admit defeat so easily here? I still have a lot of things to do. Absolutely. But I can just fall here. Naruto clenched his teeth tightly and forced his tired body to stand up. Chapter 629. Feudal struggle? Seeing Naruto struggling to stand up from the ground, Itachi Uchiha, who was completely under Naruto's control, coldly glanced at Naruto and said in a half-contemptuous and half-angry tone, "People like Naruto were the most hated people in Kabuto's eyes. No matter what kind of setbacks they encountered, they could still clearly understand what they wanted, and they could firmly move towards their goal." Since young, in order to maintain his orphanage, Kabuto joined Danzo's route without hesitation. Relying on his age and advantage, Kabuto became one of Danzo's trump cards among the infiltrators. But Root was a place that didn't need people with emotions. Since Kabuto joined Root in order to maintain his orphanage, then as the leader of Root, Danzo had to sever the bond between Kabuto and the orphanage. And the best way to sever the bond was to let Kabuto and the orphanage's dean, walking shaman Yakushi, kill each other. Although Yakushi was a good chess piece for Danzo, but compared to Kabuto, who had great potential, she was simply not worth mentioning. Sacrificing Yakushi in exchange for a perfect tool, such a simple calculation problem didn't require much effort for Danzo. It's also because of Danzo's arrangement that after killing Tenzin, Kabuto's will was directly broken. Even now, Kabuto was still trying to find the value of his existence, so he continued to act on his own. Mangekyo Dojutsu, Susanoo. The triangular windmill in Itachi Uchiha's eyes spun rapidly at this moment. Two streams of black blood seeped out of Itachi Uchiha's eye sockets. Unlike Uchiha Sasuke's blue-purple Susanoo, Itachi Uchiha's Susanoo was slightly red, as if the power of blood was poured out of it. It looked particularly majestic and oppressive. But at this moment, Itachi Uchiha was in the Edo Tensei state, and his Mangekyo Sharingan was also based on the Edo Tensei state. So at this moment, Itachi Uchiha's Susanoo was actually still in the first stage of the skeleton state. But this Susanoo was already enough to crush Uzumaki Naruto in his weakened state, wasn't it? Naruto, who was pale and had difficulty standing up, stood in front of Susanoo with his small body trembling. Although his body looked so fragile, at this moment, his eyes were shining like two bright stars in the night sky. "Uzumaki Naruto, take this." In the hand of Susanoo, a long sword with a slight golden luster condensed directly. At this moment, Yakushi Kabuto seemed to have directly put the matter of capturing Uzumaki Naruto to the back of his mind. Because Uzumaki Naruto's eyes were too dazzling for Yakushi Kabuto. Seeing such a pair of eyes, Yakushi Kabuto wanted to destroy them. The golden long sword stabbed straight in the direction of Naruto. Although Naruto's willpower was incomparably firm at this moment, the weakness of his body was an indisputable fact. At this moment, Naruto's pursuit was no longer to defeat Itachi Uchiha, but to be able to leave this world in the best state. The long sword was about to hit his body, and the huge force also brought a strong wind and the noise of air being cut. Even in the face of such a huge gust of wind, Naruto still opened his eyes wide and murmured slightly in his mouth. "Kurama, I'm sorry, I obviously said such big words, but in the end, I didn't achieve it. Father, Mother. Forgive me for not being able to serve you, but I don't regret dying for the future of the shinobi world. I have always been a person who doesn't abide by the rules, and now I will continue to be a person who doesn't abide by the rules." The chakra of a bijou is very violent, and it's the most basic common sense for everyone who knows about bijou. At this moment, Naruto's body is weak to the limit. In such a situation, if column force forcibly uses the chakra in his body, it's very likely that he will directly fall into an extremely dangerous situation. The most optimistic estimate is that after using a certain degree of power, column force and the bijou will directly die. "Brat, what are you talking about? We bijou are immortal as long as there is chakra in this shinobi world. Although death is strange to me, it's not enough to make me afraid. After so many years, you are the first ninja who has gained my approval. If it's your own decision, even if you die once, what's wrong with that?" In fact, Nine-Tails is not a very stable person. As the most powerful existence among the Nine-Tails, Nine-Tails is a very adventurous existence. Although Kabuto's behavior of playing with the souls of the dead can't make Nine-Tails feel angry, but it's inevitable that there's some disgust in his heart. Since Naruto has decided to fight with Kabuto at all costs, How can Kurama abandon Naruto and run away? Hearing the words of Nine Tails, Naruto's mouth flashed a smile. Sure enough, whether it's in reality or in the dream, Kurama is an existence worthy of deep friendship. Condensing the little remaining chakra in his body, Naruto used his own weak chakra as a catalyst to transfer some of the chakra that Nine Tails previously assigned to him. In Naruto's abdomen, a golden flame began to slowly rise. As long as Naruto is willing, it will only take a moment for Naruto's body to be completely covered by the golden flame and enter the Nine Tails chakra mode. Naruto is waiting for the moment when the golden sword in the hand of Itachi Uchiha is about to touch him. He will directly burst out all the chakra in his body and defeat Itachi Uchiha, then directly find the location of Kabuto using Itachi Uchiha as a coordinate and directly kill him. Using his own life to directly defeat one of the two major forces of Akatsuki, the Edo Tensei, such a choice is actually not a loss. After all, such an action can definitely save thousands of ninjas, right? Chapter 630. Facing death, even if death is coming, he is still willing to face such a threat. Humans were creatures to begin with. In the face of death, anyone's heart would tremble. This was an innate instinct of living creatures. Seeing the golden greatsword getting closer and closer to him, does Naruto not feel fear in his heart? Of course not. At this moment, Naruto's knees are trembling slightly because of the threat of death. But if he uses his death to exchange for the hope of thousands of people, then Naruto is definitely willing to do so. Because his ability is strong enough to crush any enemy, using his own strength to defeat people who harm the world, such a person can definitely be called a good person. But when his ability is not enough, he is willing to sacrifice his life to save others. Such a person deserves the title of hero. A real hero is not a person who deliberately pursues the title of hero. A true hero was actually someone who followed his or her own heart to live and save others. A strong person was not necessarily a hero, but a hero must have the heart of a strong person. Come on! Come on! Come on! Naruto roared in his heart, but his expression was extraordinarily calm. What Naruto needs now is not to be blinded by his own blood. What Naruto needs now is to calmly calculate and make full use of every second he can. When the golden longsword was about to reach him, and Naruto was about to release the Nine Tails chakra in his body regardless of his safety, a black flame arrow was directly inserted in front of Naruto, blocking the golden longsword. Kagutsuki. The dark Amaterasu flame was molded and turned into an arrow on the longbow in his hand and released. Sasuke is here. The moment he saw the Amaterasu arrow, Naruto knew that Sasuke is here. Although Naruto's heart is not so calm after being saved by his best friend and his competitor Uchiha Sasuke again and again, but regaining the hope of life also made Naruto's heart feel a little joy. Yukushi Kabuto. Masked man. You playing with other people's souls is a small matter for me, but you should not have involved my brother in it. I want all of you to know how much you've regretted what you've done. At this moment, Sasuke can be said to be quite angry. His cheeks that were almost paralyzed were slightly distorted. If there is something in Uchiha Sasuke's heart that must not be touched, then Sasuke's brother Itachi Uchiha must be second to none. In Sasuke's heart, his brother has experienced too much pain. Almost all the darkness in the shinobi world was imposed on his brother, but Itachi Uchiha was still able to bear such pain for him, struggling to survive between Akatsuki and Woodleaf Village. Although his brother is dead, in fact, from Sasuke's point of view, his brother leaving this world is actually a relief. But now, because of his own selfish desires, Kabuto disturbed his brother's peace after his death, and made his brother directly become a marionette in Kabuto's hands. For Sasuke, such a thing is simply unforgivable. Just as Uchiha Sasuke's mind was agitated, a crow suddenly emerged from Sasuke's body. The crow itself is Itachi Uchiha's summon beast. Few people in the shinobi world use such a summon beast. When Sasuke saw that his brother's summon beast suddenly appeared in his body, he was also surprised. What made Sasuke even more surprised was not that a crow came out of his body, but that there was a Mangekyo Sharingan in the shape of a four-cornered pinwheel in the crow's eyes. Sasuke had never seen this Mangekyo Sharingan before, but before Sasuke could react, the Mangekyo pattern in the crow's eyes rotated at high speed. Mangekyo Dojutsu, Kodo Amatsukami. Uchiha Shirsue's Mangekyo Sharingan has an ability that is almost against cognition, that is, forcibly changing the will of the subject. Such a statement is actually a bit vague and uncertain, because the so-called change, what kind of restrictions the change has, and what kind of effects it will trigger, we don't know. Although Kodo Amatsukami is a kind of genjutsu, from its function, it is closer to touching the most essential rules of the world. Although there is no way to figure out what principle Kodo Amatsukami uses to play its role, at this moment, Kodo Amatsukami seems to be directly cast on Itachi Uchiha, who was controlled by Kabuto, like a transcription ninjutsu. The will that was distorted by the charm was corrected again at this moment, and the thick black-gray color in Itachi Uchiha's eyes gradually faded. Although his body and eyes still have the characteristics of Edo Tensei, at this moment, Itachi Uchiha's eyes have regained their clarity. Seeing Sasuke wrapped in the complete Susanoo, Itachi's eyes flashed with a hint of relief, but Itachi didn't talk to Sasuke first. Instead, he controlled his Susanoo to walk towards the place where Naruto defeated Nagato just now. He waved the golden sword in Susanoo's hand and directly slashed Nagato, who had turned black but still showed signs of recovery. A shadow was pulled out of Nagato's body, and the scorched body, which originally had a human shape, immediately collapsed, leaving only a somewhat broken white Zetsu clone in it. Sasuke, you've grown up. Looking at his younger brother, Itachi finally spoke the first sentence with his own voice. The moment he heard Itachi's voice, Sasuke's eyes also turned red. Coming from his brother's praise, the anger in Sasuke's heart slowly subsided. After all, although he was very angry that his brother's soul was pulled back into this world, being able to talk to his brother again is also a thing that makes Sasuke sincerely happy. Releasing the Susanoo wrapped around him, Sasuke slowly walked towards his brother. Chapter 631. Itachi Uchiha and Uchiha Sasuke are actually very similar people. Even if his heart has been stormy, there is still no way to express the feelings in his heart. The two men stood face to face, facing each other silently, but people could feel the deep feelings between the two brothers. Unknowingly, the child who relied on me has now become a stronger person than me. Sasuke, you did a good job. In the end, in the silence of the two, Itachi Uchiha spoke first. I didn't do well, my eyes. Looking at Itachi, Sasuke's suppressed sadness finally broke out. Raising his head, Sasuke revealed the eyes he took from his father. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan pattern intertwined with 3 pinwheels and 6 pointed stars appeared so clearly in Sasuke's eyes. Itachi also saw the pattern in his brother's eyes and couldn't help but be silent. Itachi Uchiha knew that his father had the power of Mangekyo Sharingan, and he also saw what kind of pattern his father had. Looking at the pattern in Sasuke's eyes at this moment, Itachi knew that his father gave his own eyes to Sasuke, so that Sasuke had the power beyond Mangekyo. Originally, Itachi thought that Sasuke would transplant his eyes into his eyes, but he didn't expect that Sasuke would transplant Uchiha Fugaku's eyes into his own eyes. But on second thought, as one of the few people in the world who knew Sasuke best, Itachi also understood Sasuke's mood. The cold face showed a bit of gentleness, just like a mountain peak that was covered with snow all year round was suddenly illuminated by the sun, and then reflected the warm and soft light. At this moment, Itachi looked extremely gentle. Putting his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, Itachi said to Sasuke, "It's okay, I understand your mood. It's not your fault. If it were me, it's likely that I would make the same choice as you. But since you're wearing his eyes, you have to be prepared for others to associate the two of them with this pair of eyes." Although in Itachi's heart, Naruto is a trustworthy person, but after all, Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage Wave Watergate, so when mentioning Uchiha Fugaku and his mother, Itachi is very careful to hide Uchiha Fugaku's name. Sasuke didn't think so much, but Sasuke could fully understand the meaning of Itachi's words. Blinking his eyes, Sasuke regained his calmness and said to Itachi, "Don't worry, Itachi. Don't worry, they are all staying in a very safe place. Even if the Fourth Shinobi World War comes, they won't be affected. I will use the power I got from him well. It's not only for the sake of realizing my dream in life, but also for the sake of the Uchiha clan." Although the extermination of the Uchiha clan had a lot to do with Itachi, from the bottom of his heart, Itachi actually hopes that his clan can continue. At that time, the proud and arrogant Uchiha clan was not what the Uchiha clan should be like in Itachi's mind. On the contrary, Sasuke, who is grown up now, looks more calm and introverted, but he doesn't deliberately hide it when it's time to show off. If the Uchiha clan is led by Sasuke, Itachi will naturally be very happy to see that the Uchiha clan can continue, right? Since I've already decided, I'll just focus on moving towards my goal. You are my proud brother. As long as you are willing to do something, you can do it. When he heard the words proud brother from Itachi's mouth, Sasuke couldn't help but feel a little sour at the tip of his nose. For so many years, in order to stimulate Sasuke and let Sasuke maintain the hatred in his heart, Itachi will call Sasuke stupid brother every time they meet. When Itachi once again called Sasuke proud brother, Sasuke didn't know how to describe his mood. Brother, seeing the agitation in Sasuke's eyes, Itachi gently put his finger on Sasuke's forehead, blocking all the words from Sasuke's chest. Sasuke, I understand that you are very excited to see me again. But after all, I am a person who has left this world. This time, I returned to this world because of a coincidence. For me, this world is no longer my world. Sasuke, do you understand what I mean? Yes, Itachi is already a dead person. The reason why he can appear in front of Sasuke again is that Kabuto used Edo Tensei to summon the dead Itachi Uchiha back to this world. From Sasuke's selfishness, in fact, Sasuke hopes that his brother can stay in this world with his own will, but there is still Kabuto behind Itachi Uchiha, and he was deeply hurt by Ninja World. Sasuke can't bear to let Itachi stay in Ninja World in such a half-dead state again. I understand. Trying to keep his brain from being controlled by his emotions, Sasuke almost gritted his teeth and said these three words. Itachi can obviously see that Sasuke's mood is not so good at the moment, but Itachi still wants Sasuke to recognize such a fact. As a living person, no matter what the reason is, he can't be so obsessed with the dead, even if this person is so important to him. Let's go, let's end all this illogical. Looking at Sasuke, Itachi said firmly. Of course, Sasuke didn't forget Uzumaki Naruto, who was still here, and slowly walked to Naruto's side and said to Naruto, Naruto, I'm sorry that I can't catch up with you properly. You go back to the headquarters of the Ninja Allied Forces first. My brother and I will be back soon. Ignoring how Naruto would react, Sasuke turned around and left. Looking at the backs of Sasuke and Itachi, Naruto's hand couldn't help but clench tightly. At this moment, the unwillingness in Naruto's heart was like a flame. Is he still too weak? Chapter 632. Following Itachi all the way, the knot in Sasuke's heart was slowly unraveled. His brother is dead, and this is something that can't be changed. The dead can't be resurrected. This time, he can see his brother again. In fact, it's a gift brought by fate for Sasuke. In this case, why should he be obsessed with how long this gift can last? When her brother left this world, he had already entrusted everything to her. If he shirked his responsibility now and wanted to continue to let his brother who has already rested in the world, wouldn't he also fail to live up to his brother's expectations for him? Eliminating Yakushi Kabuto, cutting off one of the arms of Akatsuki, and giving the ninja world more hope for the future. But compared to these actions that can bring great prestige, what makes Sasuke more excited is that this battle will be the first time he and his brother fight together. This will be the most precious memory in Sasuke's heart. Sasuke will never allow such a battle to be tainted because of some psychological reasons. Through the remaining chakra in Yakushi Kabuto's body and the talisman with a faint connection between him and Yakushi Kabuto, Itachi Uchiha rushed in the direction of Yakushi Kabuto with his fastest speed. Outside the cloud-hidden village as the first battlefield, the situation was very anxious at the moment. As one of the supreme leaders of the ninja allied forces, Gar has appeared on the battlefield at this moment, cooperating with the ninja allied forces to seal the deceased powerhouses summoned by the Edo Tensei. But until now, except for Gar's father, Yandame Kazakage Raza, Sandame Reikage, Nidame Mizukage, and Nidame Tsuchikage are still very active on the battlefield, and the ninja allied forces are still suppressed. Just when the battle was getting intense, a powerful aura suddenly appeared on the battlefield. The powerful momentum almost caught the attention of all the ninjas in the battle. A figure wearing a retro red plate armor with a very flamboyant long hair directly appeared on the battlefield. Uchiha Madara. Looking at the figure that appeared on the battlefield, Void, as the second Tsuchikage, had a hard time even speaking. After all, the reason why Wu passed away was largely due to the severe injuries he received after encountering Uchiha Madara, which left behind a fatal internal injury. Sure enough, because there hasn't been any progress for a long time, those lunatics of Akatsuki sent this person out? Akatsuki's people are simply a group of lunatics. Do they really think they can control such a super expert? Genjutsu looked at Uchiha Madara with fear in his eyes. For all the people of that era, Uchiha Madara was the biggest nightmare in their hearts. Ruthless and domineering, no one can bear such a title more than Uchiha Madara. Judging from the eyes of Uchiha Madara at this moment, Medicine Master's pocket obviously used various methods to enhance his control over Uchiha Madara to the highest degree. Controlling Uchiha Madara, the overlapping lines belonging to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan slowly rotated directly. Mangekyo Dojutsu, Susanoo. At this moment, Uchiha Madara didn't use the first stage of Susanoo like Itachi Uchiha. Instead, he directly used the complete form of Susanoo. The azure blue body was burning with chakra flame, and the armor of Crow Tengu on the body of Susanoo looked particularly majestic and dignified. After using the Mangekyo Dojutsu's profound Susanoo, as the controller of Uchiha Madara, the pressure on Medicine Master's pocket became extremely great. He even had to relax a lot of his control over the other Edo Tensei and focus his attention on Uchiha Madara. But is Uchiha Madara really so easy to control? The answer is obvious, of course, it's not like this. At the moment when he used the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, in fact, Uchiha Madara's consciousness has already awakened. Although Medicine Master's pocket tried to control Uchiha Madara's own powerful spiritual force made Medicine Master's control shaky. On the battlefield, because Kuroto's control has weakened a lot, Nun, Genjutsu, and A also diverted the ninjutsu that they were preparing to release towards Susanoo's direction. Dust Release, Primordial World Detachment Technique. Water Release, Water Cannon Air Practice Bullet. Lightning Release, Black Thunder. Lightning, Water Column, and Dust Release simultaneously attacked the place where Uchiha Madara was located. On the spiritual level, Uchiha Madara and Medicine Master's pocket were crushing each other, so naturally, there was no way for him to exert his strongest strength. Even his Susanoo couldn't be controlled freely. The powerful attacks directly fell on Susanoo's body. Although Susanoo's defense was very strong, in the face of such an attack, it was still difficult to avoid being directly knocked down to the ground, splashing a huge cloud of dust on the ground. Did the three Kage-sama succeed? Although they don't know why the three Kage of the past recovered their ability to control their bodies at this moment, but the momentum of Susanoo just now was enough to let everyone know how terrifying Uchiha Madara is as an Edo Tensei. Seeing that the three Kage's attack directly knocked down Susanoo, almost everyone had some expectations in their hearts. Even facing the Kage of the past, everyone in the ninja allied forces didn't want to face Uchiha Madara, who was called Woodleaf Ashura by people. However, the second-generation Mizukage Genjutsu, the second-generation Tsuchikage Wayne, the third-generation Reikage AI, and the fifth-generation Kazakage Gaara's eyes were filled with seriousness. It's really exciting. I didn't expect to return to the ninja world and meet so many familiar faces. Wu Guidang Huan Yu, who gave you the guts to attack me? After the smoke and dust dissipated, The huge Susanoo once again appeared in the field of vision of everyone, but unlike the previous Susanoo, the current Susanoo was obviously more solid. If the previous complete Susanoo brought a sense of majesty to the ninjas of the ninja allied forces, then the current Susanoo directly detonated the deepest fear in everyone's heart. Chapter 633. You're just a group of losers, how dare you offend me here? Looking at Wu and Genjutsu, Uchiha Madara's eyes were as cold as ice. Uchiha Madara knew that Wu and Genjutsu were on his side, but such a clown dared to attack him? Their behavior was certainly commendable, but it was also an offense to Uchiha Madara. Originally, according to Uchiha Madara's plan, he should use the Gedo reincarnation technique to directly reappear in the ninja world in a perfect state. At that time, he would take away his Rinnegan from the Uzumaki kid and regain his most powerful strength, and then seal the Jubi collected by Uchiha Obito in his body, and obtain the power of the Six Paths, becoming another existence like the Sage of the Six Paths. With the power of the Jubi and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he would project his eyes on the moon, realize the Eye of the Moon project, and bring eternal peace to the ninja world, proving that he surpassed his old rival Senju Takuma in all aspects. But now, he had been resurrected in a half-dead manner, and a reckless brat was even trying to control him. The Jubi didn't resurrect, and several defeated opponents dared to attack him. Such a series of realities that didn't meet his expectations became the fuel for Uchiha Madara's anger. As a peerless powerhouse, Uchiha Madara never liked to hide his emotions. And these few Kages may be insurmountable existences for others, but for Uchiha Madara, they were nothing. Destroying a few small characters who were only worthy of dancing in front of him for his appreciation, they were destroyed. He slowly opened his hands, and his hands began to form hand seals at a special frequency. Chakra was constantly surging, and Susanoo and Uchiha Madara also began to form hand seals together. Susanoo, fire release. Great Fire Annihilation Arrow. Uchiha Madara's arrogant and oppressive voice directly echoed throughout the battlefield, and a huge fireball almost the size of Susanoo was directly released. The fireball was very huge in the air, and after touching the ground, the fireball spread directly. The huge attack area didn't weaken the power of the Great Fire Annihilation Arrow, and everyone could feel the scorching heat of the Great Fire Annihilation Arrow. Seeing that Uchiha Madara not only launched an attack on the three Kages who attacked him, but also directly used such a large-scale attack, the ninjas of the ninja allied forces were a little panicked. But after all, the ninjas from various villages with rich experience, after a brief moment of panic and a small number of casualties, everyone acted. The ninjas who were not so good at ninjutsu quickly retreated, and the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages who were proficient in water release and earth release also quickly pressed forward, and their hands were also quickly forming hand seals. Ninjutsu unit, get ready. Shikaku Nara's voice appeared in the mind of everyone in the ninja allied forces. Obviously, Shikaku Nara is now directly commanding the entire ninja allied forces with Yamanaka Inoichi's special ability. Earth release, earth wall, ready. 3, 2, 1 release. Listening to Shikaku Nara's instructions, the ninjas of the rock village who were proficient in earth release released earth wall at the same time. Earth wall itself is a relatively low-level ninjutsu, but when a large number of ninjas cast the same ninjutsu at the same time, everyone's ninjutsu superimposed on each other, forming an extremely magnificent earth wall. Earth release ninja, earth release. Earth flow wall countdown. 3, 2, 1 release. Shikaku Nara once again issued an order to the ninjas of the allied forces, and the ninjas who were proficient in earth release once again released earth wall at the same time. Compared to the earthen wall, the thickness and length of the earthen wall have been greatly increased, but because of the increase in the level of ninjutsu, the scale of the earthen wall was not as terrifying as the previous earthen wall released by the ninja allied forces at the same time, but it still formed a huge scale. The earth wall and the earth wall formed a protective wall at the same time, blocking Uchiha Madara's fire arrow. Seeing that the coverage of the fire arrow was limited, Shikaku Nara once again issued an order. Water Release Ninja, Water Release. Water Shockwave Countdown. 3, 2, 1 Release. Compared to the Earth Release Ninja, the environment of the Cloud Village in the Land of Lightning is not so suitable for the use of Water Release Ninjutsu. After all, the environment of the Land of Lightning is relatively dry. In such an environment, there is naturally not so much water that can be directly used to use water release. Although a large number of ninjas used water shockwave at the same time, the effect was not so good. A large amount of water rushed into the sea of fire formed by the fire arrow, but it only reduced the scale of the fire arrow slightly and directly evaporated into a large amount of water vapor by the high temperature. Water Release. Water Release. Great Waterfall Technique, ready. 3, 2, 1 Release. Through Yamanaka Inoichi's ability, Shikaku Nara naturally sensed the situation on the battlefield, and once again issued an order to the water ninjas to cast ninjutsu at the same time. Compared to the water shockwave, the level of the Great Waterfall Technique was lower, but the number of water ninjas who could cast such a ninjutsu also increased a lot. A large amount of water gathered together, and like a moth to a flame, it directly rushed towards the huge flames burning on the ground, and finally, the area covered by the fire arrow was completely extinguished. On the scorched ground, the Naide Mizukage Hozuki Genjutsu is continuously outputting his chakra, casting a hollow water release, water prison technique. The second Tsuchikage and the third Reikage were both hiding in the water prison jutsu at this moment. These three Kages also used this jutsu to protect themselves from Madara's Susan's fire release, great fire destruction arrow. But whether it was Genjutsu Hozuki or Sandaime, some parts of their bodies had a bit of scorch marks. Even with the help of the Edo Tensei, their bodies were almost immortal, but at this moment, it was very difficult for them to recover. Is this Uchiha Madara? It's full of overwhelming power, making it difficult for anyone to have the mood to resist, and can only float obediently. Such a thought appeared in the hearts of every ninja in the ninja allied forces almost at the same time. Just one ninjutsu made the entire ninja allied forces so difficult to deal with. What can they rely on to stop the powerful Uchiha Madara? Chapter 634. Previously, Kabuto had been trying his best to control the powerful Uchiha Madara, and it was precisely because of this that Do, Genjutsu, and A were temporarily out of his control. When Uchiha Madara broke out with his power and crushed the ordinary ninjas of the Ninja Alliance, Kabuto also reconnected the three Kage and completely controlled them. Their eyes were covered with gray, Do, Genjutsu, and he knelt on the ground almost at the same time. Genjutsu, who was the leader of the three, lowered his head slightly and said to Uchiha Madara, "I'm really sorry, Madara-sama. Because of my negligence, I actually let these three guys attack you. It's really disgraceful." Kabuto's voice came out from Genjutsu's mouth, and Uchiha Madara also looked at Genjutsu, Do, and A who were kneeling on the ground. Uchiha Madara had a certain understanding of these three people with White Zetsu's special ability. These three were also strong people in the past, and now they are directly controlled by Kabuto, which is really a sad thing. However, with Uchiha Madara's cold temperament, these three people who have little contact with him have no way to resonate with Uchiha Madara. However, Kabuto's action of controlling the three Kage to directly ask for forgiveness from Uchiha Madara was not a wise action. It is true that three strong people in the past kneeling in front of him and asking for forgiveness is an exciting thing for any ninja. But Uchiha Madara is different. In the era of the chaotic war, to be honest, the number of strong people in the ninja world was more than the current ninja world. In that era, Uchiha Madara didn't know how many Kage-level strong people knelt in front of him and asked for forgiveness. But now, such a lineup is not enough to make Uchiha Madara's heart flutter and forgive Kabuto for what he did to him. You and him have quite a few schemes of your own, although it's not so clear what the relationship between this person who can use the Edo Tensei and Uchiha Obito is. Madara is very clear about the fact that Uchiha Obito and Kabuto are working together to control him. Hearing Uchiha Madara's words, Kabuto, who was far away in the depths of the cloud village, couldn't help but be wrapped in a cold chill. Uchiha Madara didn't threaten him, nor did he say any harsh words, but such a simple sentence directly stabbed Kabuto's heart like a sharp knife. It was a kind of trembling from the depths of his body, making Kabuto involuntarily have a feeling of fear. Even though he was looking at Madara through Genjetsu's eyes, Kabuto still felt like he was looking at Madara. His sharp eyes and indifferent attitude directly rushed into his mind. Everyone has their own selfish desires, and this is something that can't be changed. Some of your little moves behind my back can't be hidden from me. But I don't intend to directly condemn you. After all, you are still of some value to me. I haven't returned to this ninja world yet, so I can't control any of your little moves. But since I'm back, then you should restrain your actions that deviate from my expectations. Otherwise, these 3 people will be your examples. Before he finished speaking, Uchiha Madara controlled Susanoo to directly pull out the long sword hanging on the side of Crow Tengu's armor and directly cut the 3 Kages kneeling in front of him. The former Kages of the 5 great ninja villages who directly crushed the ninja coalition with their own strength were directly cut in half by Susanoo. Chakra flames spread out from the katana, directly burning the bodies of the 3 Kage, preventing their bodies from automatically recovering. Seeing Wu, Genjetsu, and these 3 Kage tier rankers have lost their fighting ability, Kabuto made a prompt decision to cancel the Edo Tensei for these 3 Kage tier rankers. Controlling the Edo Tensei will consume the chakra from Orochimaru in Kabuto's body. In order to make the best use of the power in his hands, Kabuto will naturally give up on these people who can't play a role in a short time. You have a little brain. Looking at Kabuto directly cancel the Edo Tensei, Uchiha Madara's mouth flashed a contemptuous smile and said such a sentence as a compliment. But then Uchiha Madara looked at the land beside him, and almost a moment later, Black Zetsu's figure directly emerged from the land. Black Zetsu knelt in front of Uchiha Madara, and the emotions that have always been very restrained in front of Uchiha Madara were completely released at this moment. As if he saw his own reliance, with a face full of guilt, Black Zetsu looked at Uchiha Madara and said, "Madara-sama, I'm really sorry, I failed to live up to your expectations. During the time when you temporarily left this world, he was still under my control at first. But as the power in his hands grew larger and larger, the desire in his heart was gradually ignited. My own strength is weak, and there is no way to stop him. Even the Rinnegan that I snatched with great difficulty was given to him in order to appease him. Now there is only one Rinnegan left." For a long time, in Uchiha Madara's mind, Black Zetsu is an existence that he created through the Rinnegan's yin-yang release and the 6 paths power in the Rinnegan. Although Uchiha Madara has never trusted others so easily, he still has a certain trust in Black Zetsu. After listening to Black Zetsu's self-condemnation, Uchiha Madara didn't say much, but very indifferently said to Black Zetsu, "It doesn't matter, the small animals in the family will be wild after the master leaves the house, let alone a selfish human being. Some of the actions were done, and they were done. Give me the remaining Rinnegan first, and I will arrange the next things freely." Stretching out his hand, Uchiha Madara obviously wanted Black Zetsu to give him the remaining Rinnegan now. Black Zetsu also took out the Rinnegan that he had hidden. Uchiha Madara reached out and directly took out the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan simulated by the Edo Tensei in his right eye and directly crushed it. With a gentle press of his right hand, the Rinnegan was placed in his right eye socket by Uchiha Madara. Chapter 635. Ugh. When Uchiha Madara put the Rinnegan in his eyes, he felt the resonance between the Rinnegan and his spirit and blood. The comfortable feeling of being full of strength made Uchiha Madara involuntarily open his mouth and make a moaning sound. In the ninja world, there has always been a legend of the 3 dojutsu, and almost all the ninjas of the ninja allied forces have studied the various information that has been made public by the Akatsuki. The original leader of the Akatsuki, Pain, had the same eyes as the legendary sage of the 6 paths. But why did Uchiha Madara, who was already powerful and invincible, now directly put the Rinnegan in his eyes. Before, in order to catch the Rinnegan that Black Zetsu handed to him, Uchiha Madara had already removed his Susan. Although he removed the Susanoo, there was no pressure on his body. But at this moment, Uchiha Madara was just standing there, and it already made everyone's heart full of pressure. Just when everyone stood still and didn't know what to do, 5 figures appeared in the center of the ninja allied forces. Not only Gaara, who has been cooperating with the ninja allied forces to fight against the Edo Tensei, but the Kage of the other 4 villages also appeared in the center of the ninja allied forces at the same time. For every ninja, the Kage of their village is the most worthy of their respect and admiration. It can be said that the Kage of every ninja village is the spiritual symbol of the village. When their spiritual symbol appears, no matter how critical the situation is, every ninja's heart is still a lot calmer. Spontaneously, the ninjas of the ninja allied forces directly made a path for the Kage of their village. This is the majesty of the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages. This is the respect of the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages. In a very short time, Uchiha Madara directly converged the powerful force in his body that was stimulated by the return of the Rinnegan. After converging the powerful force, Uchiha Madara also saw the scene in the ninja allied forces opposite him. The 5 Kages of the 5 great ninja villages slowly walked out of the human wall formed by the ninjas in their villages. In fact, the Kages of the 5 great ninja villages naturally have various ways to quickly reach the center of the battlefield. But at this moment, they did choose to walk to the center of the battlefield step by their own feet. This is not only to accumulate the morale of the ninja allied forces in this way, but also to accumulate momentum for the battle between themselves and Uchiha Madara. It was never an empty phrase to say that one could be as powerful as a tiger in one go. When he saw Uchiha Madara appear on the battlefield as the Kage, he was the only one in the battlefield. Gaara was ready to go to fight Madara himself to buy time to fight. The allied ninjas of the allied forces Allied Ninja Army. But just when Gaara was ready to fight Uchiha Madara directly, Shikaku Nara, who was the staff officer of the Allied Forces Ninja Army, directly contacted Gaara through Yamanaka Inoichi's ability. After some persuasion from Shikaku Nara, Gaara also temporarily hid in the Allied Forces Ninja Army, and Kaze Watergate used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to bring the rest of the Kages to the front line. When all the Kages of the 5 great ninja villages came to the front line of the battlefield, the Allied Forces Ninja Army had effectively responded to Uchiha Madara's ninjutsu under the command of Shikaku Nara. In order not to expose their existence, the 5 Kages also hid in the Allied Forces Ninja Army, waiting for an opportunity to directly attack Uchiha Madara. However, the situation was not as the 5 Kages expected. Uchiha Madara directly defeated the Kages summoned by the Edo Tensei, and he took the Rinnegan and put it into his eyes. The Allied Forces Ninja Army was in a slump, and now was not the time to think about how to cause enough damage to Uchiha Madara. After all, war still depends on the hearts of the people, and as one of the 5 great ninja villages, the Kages will definitely ignore such an important factor. After communicating with each other, the 5 Kages finally decided to come out in the most flamboyant way to let all the ninjas know that Uchiha Madara is not terrible. Interesting. After so many years, most of the ninjas in the ninja world have forgotten the horror I once brought to them. Now, there are a few juniors who are willing to stand up and dance in front of me to welcome my return. That's really good. Uchiha Madara's mouth made a soft laugh, and it seemed that the 5 Kages were just a small entertainment to welcome his return in the eyes of Uchiha Madara. Enjoy this unusual blood banquet. The corner of Uchiha Madara's mouth slightly raised, and a cruel smile flashed in the corner of his mouth. He has been away from the battlefield for many years for various reasons. Although Uchiha Madara has always thought that he is not a cold-blooded person, the strong smell of blood on the battlefield still stimulated Uchiha Madara's nerves to a certain extent. Forget it, let's just think of it as a small warm-up before implementing his plan. Let me give you a small gift first. Uchiha Madara looked at the Kage of the 5 great shinobi villages who were slowly walking towards him, and he began to form hand seals quickly. Fire release, Dragon Flame Song Technique. A high-level fire release was so easily released by Uchiha Madara, and 4 dragon-shaped flames directly rushed in the direction of the 5 Kages. They have seen the power of Uchiha Madara's fire release before. Although the ninjas of the allied ninja army felt a little more confident after seeing the 5 Kages at this moment, they still subconsciously dodged, and the powerful ninjutsu attacked the 5 Kages. Dragon Flame Song technique itself is a powerful single-target ninjutsu. It attacks the enemy from 4 directions so that the enemy has no room to dodge. But now, Uchiha Madara's Dragon Flame Song technique directly attacked the 5 Kages, and the scattered attacks naturally made the Dragon Flame Song technique more likely to be dodged. As a Kage of a ninja village, no matter who it is, they are actually confident to escape from such an attack without any injury. But at this moment, the 5 Kages can't directly dodge, otherwise, the momentum that they have just accumulated will directly dissipate, and the overall morale of the allied ninja army will definitely plummet. The only thing the 5 Kages can do is to catch such a ninjutsu without caring about the consumption. Chapter 636. The 5 Kage exchanged glances, and A, who wasn't good at defense, directly stepped back and stood at the back of the 5. Terumi Mei, who was brought here by Minato using the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, walked to the front of the 5 people and quickly formed hand seals with her hands. Water Release, Water Dragon Chain Technique. The advanced ninjutsu of Water Dragon was directly used by Mei. Although Mei has always been famous for her 2 Kekkei Genkai, as the Mizukage of the Mist, her water release was also very powerful. After Mei finished the hand seals, 4 water dragons quickly condensed at the same time. Compared to the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu that only has 4 dragon heads, Mei's Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu is obviously larger. Unlike the Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu that only has a vague dragon shape, Mei's Water Dragon Bullet Jutsu almost completely outlines a very delicate dragon shape. Even the dragon scales and dragon whiskers on the dragon's body are extremely clear. This wasn't Terumi Mei trying to make her ninjutsu more gorgeous. There was a bit of gray-brown luster flowing in the gaps between the dragon scales and dragon whiskers. Obviously, Terumi Mei also injected part of her Kekkei Genkai, lava release, chakra into the water dragon chakra technique. Go! Mei controlled the 4 water dragons to directly rush toward the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu used by Uchiha Madara. The battle between water and fire directly broke out in midair. A large amount of water evaporated due to the high temperature, and the flame also weakened a bit because of the impact of the water flow. Looking at Mei's Water Dragon Chain technique that included her Kekkei Genkai chakra, Uchiha Madara's eyes also showed some interest. After all, in the ninja world, Kekkei Genkai is actually very rare, but it doesn't mean that the types of Kekkei Genkai are very scarce. In every era, there are amazing people, relying on their own talents. One by one special Kekkei Genkai was developed. Mei's 2 Kekkei Genkai were actually new Kekkei Genkai developed by herself. Seeing the power that he had never seen before, Uchiha Madara, who was obsessed with power, was quite excited. This Kekkei Genkai is a bit interesting. The fusion of water and earth chakra, and then it has sticky and corrosive properties, and even a bit of magma properties. The attack power is good, but it's not enough. Murmuring slightly, Uchiha Madara also made a little evaluation of Mei's Kekkei Genkai. The feeling was like a martial arts master suddenly seeing a child unintentionally show an exquisite move in front of him, full of surprise. Uchiha Madara put his hands on his chest, and a huge chakra poured out of Uchiha Madara's body and directly injected into the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu that had been released, but was still a certain distance away from him. After casting such a ninjutsu, it was clear that after a period of time, he could continue to inject chakra into the released ninjutsu to maintain it. Such a technique simply violated the common sense of ninjutsu. With the help of Hashirama's cells and the blood of the Uchiha clan in his body, coupled with the power of the 6 paths brought by the Rinnegan, Madara also went through a trial to master such a technique. The Dragon Flame Song Jutsu, which had been weakened by the impact of the water dragon. At this moment, after being supplemented by chakra of Uchiha Madara, it directly expanded 2 times. The Dragon Flame Song Jutsu directly broke through the blockade of the water dragon and rushed in the direction of the 5 Kages. Gaara and Watergate also stood up at the same time to replace Mei to resist the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu. Waving his hands, several sand ropes condensed into sand and rushed directly towards the 4 dragon heads. After touching the dragon heads, the sand ropes didn't tie the dragon heads. After all, although the dragon heads looked very solid, they were formed by flames after all, and the density of the physical resistance was not high. At the moment of contact with the dragon heads, the sand ropes directly melted and directly covered the dragon heads condensed by the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu. When the sand encountered high temperature, the silicon in it would show signs of melting due to the high temperature. At this moment, the dragon head cast by the Dragon Song was directly wrapped up by the slightly pale yellow glass solution formed by the melting sand. Gaara still continued to control the sand to rush towards the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu, and a large amount of glass solution directly penetrated the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu. After seeing that Gaara's ninjutsu had a certain effect, Watergate also used the ninjutsu he prepared. Wind Release, Wind Blast. Several wind blades were directly released from Watergate's hands. The wind blades condensed by chakra in Watergate's hands were like scalpels in the hands of a physician, accurately cutting towards the dragon heads wrapped in glass solution. The wind blades didn't directly cut the dragon heads in half. Instead, under the control of Watergate, they cut the dragon heads layer by layer. Almost in an instant, the huge dragon heads directly turned into pieces of orange-red crystals. Watching Watergate and Gaara cut the flames of the dragon heads, Raikage and Tsuchikage, who stood at the end, finally moved. Earth Release, Rock Golem Golem. Under Inoki's roar, a giant made of rock and earth directly stood up from the soil. The rock golem is actually an earth puppet created by using earth release ninjutsu, which can attack or defend under the control of the caster. However, under the control of Inoki, the size of the rock golem began to shrink slowly. Its originally hard body became more solid under the compression. Suddenly, the rock golem burst open, transforming into an armor-like shape, directly covering the body of the 4th Raikage AI. Feeling the heavy armor on the surface of his body, Ace stimulated his Raitun chakra and directly attached it to his armor. After a short period of charging, a directly rushed out. Raitun Ninjutsu, Heavy Current Storm. Wrapped in the double armor of thunder and earth, AI rushed straight towards the location of the Dragon Flame Song Jutsu. Chapter 637. Although Uchiha Madara killed a Sandaime Raikage without his own consciousness with Susanoo, even so, he was still the father of the 4th generation Raikage. When he saw his father fall in front of him again, the surging emotions in his heart couldn't be suppressed. After suppressing his emotions to such an extent, AI finally had a chance to erupt. Naturally, he didn't hold back at all as he exerted all the strength he could. The lightning covered the rock armor, and the blue-white lightning and the gray-brown rock armor formed a different kind of beauty at this moment. At this moment, A's body was wrapped in lightning, like a violent beast that broke out of the cage, rushing directly toward the orange-red crystals created by Gaara and Watergate. Under the stimulation of Raitun chakra, A's speed almost reached the extreme. He leaped in midair, and although he didn't use any ninjutsu, a shadow of A appeared in front of each orange-red crystal. The orange-red crystals directly shattered into powder under the impact of A's elbow, scattering in the air like a cloud of fire. After seeing A directly eliminate Uchiha Madara's attack, the ninjas of the Ninja Allied Forces couldn't help but start cheering. The 5 Kages didn't actually use their most powerful strength, but by using various ninjutsu to cooperate with each other, they beautifully dispersed Uchiha Madara's attack directly, letting the ninjas of the Ninja Allied Forces fully see the power of the 5 Kages when they cooperate together. This is the shadow of the 5 great ninja villages, and this is the pride of every ninja village. No matter how powerful the Akatsuki is, No matter how unstoppable Uchiha Madara is, we are not afraid. Because our Kages are standing with us, and our Kages are fighting alongside us. Humans are such unrealistic creatures. When one's heart was satisfied, when one's soul found a pillar of support, one by one, they would lose their so-called rational judgment and become brave and fearless. Mighty! 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 Shouts came out from the ninja allied forces. At first, it was just a scattered shout, but slowly, such shouts gradually became louder. The shouts of mighty were like a mountain flood, out of control, and directly rushed to the sky. At this moment, the ninja allied forces were like a flame, directly dispersing the coldness on the battlefield. Listening to the shouts from the ninja allied forces, the 5 Kages standing among the many ninjas were slightly filled with pride at this moment. Although he used a method that consumes a lot of energy to fight Madara, it still has a good effect, isn't it? Uchiha Madara, we 5 Kages are here and we will fight with you. No matter how strong you are, we won't take a step back. As long as we have a breath, the future of the ninja world will never dissipate. Your plan will not succeed in the end. Minato looked at Uchiha Madara, who was standing on the opposite side and watching the 5 of them fight against the dragon's release song jutsu coldly. He used chakra to amplify his voice and directly said to Madara, Uchiha. Hearing the righteous voice of Watergate, the ninjas of the ninja allied forces were also excited at this moment. Yes, we are not only fighting for ourselves. We are fighting so hard for nothing else. We are fighting for the future of the shinobi world, so that our world will not become a fake playground. Looking at the ninja allied forces and Watergate, Uchiha Madara still looked at them with interest. At the level of Uchiha Madara, in fact, the so-called number advantage is not so important. It can be said that as long as Uchiha Madara is willing, no one can stop Uchiha Madara from slaughtering the ninja allied forces. Now, Uchiha Madara is actually just stalling for time. Although Uchiha Obito has done a lot of little things after Madara left the world, but Madara can be sure that Uchiha Obito himself actually wants to create a virtual world through the Jubi. As long as Uchiha Obito's demand doesn't disappear, then Uchiha Madara doesn't have to be impatient at all. Since there was still plenty of time and he didn't have anything urgent to do, why not have some fun with these juniors and exercise his muscles and bones? Wheel grave, border prison. Silently, Uchiha Madara displayed the unique skill of his Rinnegan. Because his current Rinnegan is not complete, and his body is also a fake body simulated by the Edo Tensei, so he can summon 4 shadows that don't exist in the real dimension, but now he can only summon 1 shadow, but this shadow has the strength of Uchiha Madara himself. Putting such a shadow aside, Uchiha Madara decided to use it as a trump card to decide the outcome of the battle. Susanoo. After reactivating Susanoo, with the support of Rinnegan, Susanoo has obviously become even more powerful. This time, Madara and Susanoo printed hand seals at the same time again, but the difference is that the hand seals made by Madara and Susanoo were completely different. Uchiha Madara and Susanoo seemed to have reached an inexplicable resonance at this moment, and a strong gravitational force was released directly from the bodies of Uchiha Madara and Susanoo, and it seemed to be pulling something straight into the sky. Almost after a moment, the ninja allied forces, who had just cheered up, directly saw a scene like a heavenly punishment. 2 huge meteorites with a diameter of more than 100 meters rushed directly from the sky. Because of the extremely fast speed, the meteorites and the air quickly rubbed against each other, and there were flames attached to the meteorites. Is this still a technique that can be used by humans? Almost everyone began to have such a question in their hearts. In everyone's cognition, such a scale of ninjutsu is simply impossible to exist. The 5 Kage, who originally hoped to gain some possibility of victory by boosting the morale of the ninjas in the ninja allied forces, at this moment, their faces were gloomy. The current situation is no longer something that they can resist. Now, all they can do is to protect the ninjas in the ninja allied forces as much as possible. They must not let them lose a lot of people under such an attack. Chapter 638. Tengai Season. Like a whisper, Uchiha Madara said the name of such a move that was almost like a divine punishment. Obviously, it was just a subtle sound, but it sounded like it was in everyone's ears, so that everyone could hear such a whisper carefully. After the 5 Kages looked at each other, they quickly dispersed, and the ninjas of the ninja allied forces also spontaneously gathered, and each of them cast a variety of ninjutsu to defend against such an impact. Watergate didn't go directly to the ninja allied forces to help people defend, but he used the shadow clone jutsu to summon 2 shadow clones. He took out 4 special kunai from the ninja bag on his back, and after giving 2 of them to his shadow clone jutsu, Watergate didn't pay attention to the 2 shadow clones who quickly used the body flicker jutsu to escape. He directly threw the special kunai in his left and right hands directly at the 2 huge meteorites summoned by Tengai Season. Although the meteorites were surrounded by strong airflow when they fell, there was still no way to stop Watergate's special kunai that became fast and full of sharpness after injecting a lot of chakra. Compared to the huge size of the meteorites, the 2 special kunai were so small, but the effect of the 2 special kunai was beyond imagination. At the moment of contact with the meteorites, the huge chakra in the special kunai directly burst out, like a giant net, directly wrapped the 2 huge meteorites in it. Flying Thunder God. Feeling that his 2 shadow clones have reached the designated position, he directly released the ninjutsu. Watergate made a hand seal, condensed his chakra, and directly cast his signature space-time ninjutsu. Under the huge explosion of light, the bodies of the 2 huge meteorites were slightly distorted. After feeling Watergate's space-time ninjutsu, Uchiha Madara's eyes became slightly cold. You think too lightly. Originally, Uchiha Madara was going to let the 2 meteorites fall directly into the ninja allied forces in a free-fall manner and directly clear the noisy ants in the ninja allied forces, but now Watergate wants to use a space-time ninjutsu to directly transfer his ninjutsu away? His left eye opened wide and almost pushed the power in his eyes to the extreme. The meteorite summoned by the Tengai has a special connection with Uchiha Madara. After Uchiha Madara released his power, a huge force also broke out in the meteorite. The power of Rinnegan and the space ninjutsu used by Watergate confronted each other. Compared to the power of Rinnegan, Watergate's ninjutsu was naturally at a disadvantage. Although he was hindered by Uchiha Madara, Watergate's Flying Thunder God was still displayed. However, unlike Watergate's expectations, Flying Thunder God didn't directly transmit the 2 huge meteorites to the Flying Thunder God coordinates set by his 2 shadow clones, but there was a certain deviation. The ninjas in the outer part of the ninja allied forces were still affected by the meteorite attack, and hundreds of ninjas directly lost their lives under the meteorite attack. Itachi Uchiha and Uchiha Sasuke also arrived at the Cloud Village occupied by Akatsuki at this moment. With the connection between himself and Kabuto, Itachi Uchiha also confirmed the location of Kabuto. Along the way, Uchiha Sasuke also briefly described the current situation of the battlefield to his brother. After hearing that the White Zetsu unit was lost and the main enemy facing the ninja allied forces was the Edo Tensei unit, his decision to defeat Kabuto became more firm. Sasuke, this time, fight side by side with me. Hearing Itachi's words, Sasuke also nodded firmly. For the first and last time, he and his brother will fight together. Such an opportunity must be grasped. Standing at the door of Kabuto's research room, Itachi Uchiha and Uchiha Sasuke tacitly made hand seals at the same time. The same hand seals were quickly completed in the hands of Itachi Uchiha and Uchiha Sasuke. Ketan, Great Fireball Technique. Ken, Great Fireball Technique. 2 huge fireballs directly rushed out of Sasuke and Itachi's mouth. The 2 huge fireballs directly hit the wooden door, and the scorching fireballs directly burned through the wooden door. Ignoring the heat of the flames, Uchiha Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha directly cast their Susan, summoning red and purple ribs directly to protect themselves. Uchiha Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha rushed into Kabuto's research room at the same time. I've been waiting for you 2 for a long time. In the room, Kabuto's slightly hoarse voice, which had become very similar to Orochimaru's, sounded directly. After Itachi Uchiha got out of his control, Kabuto already knew that Itachi would find him with his ability. But because he was fully focused on controlling Uchiha Madara, Kabuto didn't have time to care about Itachi's actions. But now in the battlefield, there was actually no need for Kabuto's control. Uchiha Madara was already fighting with the ninja allied forces, and the other Edo Tensei became insignificant compared to Uchiha Madara's power. Kabuto directly reduced his control of those Edo Tensei to the minimum and began to prepare for the arrival of Itachi Uchiha. Kabuto stretched out his hand under his loose robe and made hand seals to cast ninjutsu. At the same time, a nearly transparent snake-shaped energy appeared on Kabuto's body. Senjutsu, White Surge Technique. The senjutsu energy on Kabuto's body immediately spread to the surrounding air after the completion of the ninjutsu. Under the control of the senjutsu energy, the surrounding air began to vibrate at a high frequency. The vibration of the air also made everything in it vibrate. The most obvious is that some small gravel on the ground has turned into fine powder at this moment. Although his body is wrapped in Susanu's defense, this kind of ninjutsu attack is different from physical attack or ninjutsu attack. Uchiha Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha at this moment heard a very harsh buzzing sound in their ears, and even their bodies were a little out of control. Similarly, the control of chakra also became difficult to master, and the rib defense formed by Susanoo also became unstable at this moment. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.